And we are back for the year's first, as we're halfway through March. First, I will never forgive you podcast of the year. So I'm calling this season 2. Mainly because I can never remember if I've done episode 19 and need to do episode 20, or if I've done episode 20 and need to do 21. I can't keep track of the numbers anymore. I could look it up easily, but I'm just starting a new season. We've had enough of a hiatus. We can just call this season 2, episode 1. Easier to keep track of. So here we are. Okay, so what's going to happen moving forward is I'm going to do about 12 of these big ass mega podcasts a year, because these take forever, and we'll get into like the whole time skip thing. What do they call it? Bookmark channel chapter marks. We'll get into the whole chapter thing in a minute because of how big these are. But essentially, now 12. My plan is to do one the first of every month. So this is, as you can see, unless you're on early access, as you can see, this is April 1st. April Fools. I thought about doing an April Fools podcast where it was 30 seconds long. Maybe I would still do that. Release that early. This is my big ass podcast. And just say April Fools after 30 seconds. Maybe I will. I got 12 days. But this will have dropped after that. So we'll see. Probably not. I probably won't remember to do it. But, that would actually be kind of funny. Here's my big ass podcast, 30 seconds long. Then say April Fool's at the end, and then just wait a couple hours and drop this. Anyway, this is dropping April 1st. So the first every month I'll have a big mega podcast. But, this is the third month of the year. So I want to do at least 12 a season. Maybe more. We'll see. Maybe if I actually get ahead of things like I'm trying to right now, I'll have more time for stuff like this. That would be fun. But, we'll just have to see how that goes. But that's the plan. The first every month, and it'll be mini podcasts every other week of the month. And the mini podcasts have been fun. They're not so time intensive. I can basically record, edit, and export within 2 to 3 hours of each other and just be done with it. So I think that'll work. We can get more of this podcasty type content out there and just, have some fun and do something different than just reactions all the time. So that's the plan. One big ass podcast a month. And then every now and then maybe I can get an extra podcast in there. I still have the podcast out of time ready to drop. So this is something I can do if we really have a problem and I'm way behind on everything. I'm going to try to record in second one of those. So let's get into the promotion part real quick. I've got a Patreon. I'm going to be reopening up members, YouTube membership soon. Just because I'm trying to get some extra income so that I can, level up my Vimeo thing. Because my Vimeo account is tapped out at 4 terabytes. Can't believe I'm up to 4 terabytes. And I keep having to delete shit to make room for new shit. And that's not going to be sustainable for very long. So I'm trying to get from 4 terabytes up to 7 terabytes, but it's like an extra $400 a year. So I need to raise money somehow. The way I'm going to raise money is I'm going to try to do it with YouTube memberships. We'll see. Last time nobody cared about it. But this time I'm going to put more shit over there. But either way, right now we've got Patreon. And I just don't think the bonus video thing, I couldn't come up with enough good ideas. That wasn't really working, So what I'm going to do instead is the mini podcast. You're always going to have 2 extra episodes of the mini podcast at any time. As I speak, there'll be 2 extra episodes up there. Always 1 for sure. Usually 2. Because since I do 1 a week of the mini podcast, then I make sure before I drop the next one on YouTube, I have recorded a new one to take its place. And like I said, it only takes 3 hours, so I can pretty much pull that off. So there'll be a couple of these episodes. You can get them early, and you can get the mega podcast early. This one, I'm recording it on March 19th. Probably by March 20th, they'll be on early access 11 days early. That's pretty much going to be the pattern moving forward. So I'll never be late on these big boys again, and you'll get them a week or 2 early. So that's always fun. And I'll throw in some extra reactions and stuff something else. But it's tier 3 over on Patreon. It's $5 a month. You help support the podcast, $5 a month, and you can at least get early access. And I'll try to throw some extra zooms and wham-whams up there when I get a chance. So the other thing of just having a special video month, it just wasn't working out, man. I can't. Once I realize something's not working out, I got to change it up. So that's what I'll do. And do a couple extra reactions. All right, so that's promotion out of the way. You can just support if really the Patreon thing isn't even about what you get out of it for me anyway. You're just helping support the person so they can do more of what you like. So it's really for the support. All right, commercials out of the way. Now, there's been some pushback on why don't I do chapter breaks for each of these topics. These are long videos. This one, I wouldn't be shocked if this is another 3-hour video. And some people, I guess it's just a different approach, right? Because when I listen to podcasts on YouTube, typically YouTube is where I listen to podcasts. And so I'm trying to think of the podcasts I listen to. There's a bunch of Plurbius podcasts where two people will just talk about Plurbius for an hour and a half. I just start it and go, and usually when I'm listening to shit like that, I'm driving somewhere. So I have a 45-minute drive somewhere. I start the podcast, I download the podcast on my phone, get in the car, turn on the engine, start the podcast, put the phone over here, and I'm driving as I listen. Because a podcast, you don't have to look at the screen. You just listen. I also do have a podcast player, so there's a couple of podcasts I listen to there. Dan Carlin does the history podcast, and there's a couple other podcasts, So I just listen to them straight through. I don't jump around. I don't know why you'd want to jump around if because the way I use it is I'm just trying to get somewhere and I want to listen to something while I get somewhere so I don't have to be trapped with my own thoughts, right? I don't want to reflect on all my poor decisions I made in my life or think about shitty things in my past, which is what my mind tends to gravitate to if I'm not listening to something. So that's what I do, right? So I just listen straight through. So I don't have the mindset of, hey, I want to skip around to what I want to hear. I don't curate my listening experience in that way. But if you're sitting at home and you have 20 minutes before you need to start working, or maybe you need to leave to go to school, or you need to leave or whatever, you're like, you have 20 minutes, it's a 3-hour podcast, and maybe there's only 20 minutes you care about in that podcast. I totally understand the mindset, in theory, of I only want to jump to where he talks about One Piece. I only want to jump to where he talks about Black Clover, right? I guess I could kind of say I just don't consume podcasts that way. And I've always said, I put out content that I would want to consume. Why do my reactions have such short intros, usually, and such short outros, usually? Why? Because when I'm watching reactions, I skip the intros and I turn it off after the reaction's over because I don't want to hear the 30 minutes where they talk about what they just saw. I don't care. Mostly. There's a couple exceptions. Neil Talks. I used to listen to his outros and his intros. Typically, though, I don't give a shit. So I put out short intros and short outros because I don't want to listen to long intros and long outros. And I sure as hell don't recap, here's what happened in the last episode that you have seen 10 times. Let me describe the plot of everything that happened. Like, I've basically have stopped watching Shelley's reactions. Her intros are 10 minutes long, and 8 minutes of that she's recapping what we saw last time. I've seen the damn episode 15 times. I don't need to know what happened. I don't need you to prove that you were paying attention. I don't know why she does it. She puts out shit she wants to see. She must like to see it, right? So she's doing her own thing. I don't like that. So you'll never see me recap what happened last time. Because I don't want to sit through that shit. So, in that way, I put out the kind of reaction videos that I want to see. And I watch a lot of reaction videos. Likewise, I put out the kind of podcasts that I want to listen to. I'm never at a podcast, can I skip around to this thing and, let me skip 2 hours and get to this part. I just don't consume podcasts that way. So I'm not going to put out one that way. And then I have my joke I say where it's like, putting in chapter breaks is me spending extra work, doing extra work so you can listen to less of my shit. It's funny, it's pithy, but it also makes a little bit of sense, right? Like, why would you put in extra effort so people can listen to less of your shit? Well, then you can say, well, if you don't do that, they won't listen to any of your shit, right? Which is true. People have told me this. They've told me this recently, within the last couple of weeks. I don't listen to your podcast because you don't have chapter breaks. Okay, I guess I lost that listener. That's too bad. But really, and maybe now that I'm doing this thing where I'm trying to put these out once a month and I'm trying to do it way early. But my biggest problem so far has been if I put in the time to put in the chapter breaks, that's extra hours. I would procrastinate because that's work I don't like doing. When there's work I don't enjoy doing, I procrastinate. If there's a show I don't like, it's always going to be late, at least a little bit, even by a couple hours. Penguin, I didn't enjoy the Penguin that much, so I was always late. It was supposed to come out at 9 a.m. It was always coming out like 7 p.m. because I was just late. I procrastinate. That's what I do. So I procrastinate, plus it takes longer, so the podcast will take longer to get out. And nobody wants that. Most people just want to listen to the podcast, right? So, it just isn't worth the time and effort and delay in the podcast coming out to put in the chapter breaks, right? So I'm not going to do it. But I will, there is one compromise, which is I'll start putting on the screen, and I started this with the last one, the topic I'm currently on. So you can, with your scroller, skip ahead, see the topic. Oh, wait a minute, let me back up a little bit, find the beginning of that. I know it's going to be a little bit harder, but if you can't take the extra 20 seconds it would take to find the beginning or close enough to the beginning of a topic, then just don't listen, I guess. But if you can, I'm going to put a visual aid. It'll tell you at all times what the topic is I'm currently talking about. So you don't have to listen and try to figure out what the hell you're saying. Because there is one thing, there's a sports talk, the station in Boston that puts out podcasts about the Patriots. I like to listen to the Patriots podcast because the guys are entertaining. Like, I don't care about the New England Patriots. But the announcers are entertaining, so I've just started listening to them. But when they're talking about the Celtics, I don't care, and there's no chapters. There'll be 40-minute podcasts because it basically they take their hour of radio and condense it down to 40 minutes and put it online. You can just listen to it without the ads, right? So they'll say here, they talk about the Patriots here, they're going to talk about the Celtics, then they're going to talk about Bill Belichick, which I love hearing them talk about. And then they're going to talk about their stupid baseball team. So like I'll get there and I'll have to just skip around. Somebody went to the plate. Okay, well that's not the Patriots. Skip ahead. Then they talk about Bill Belichick. Then I got to back it up. Yeah, it is a pain in the ass. I understand that. It's annoying. But I do it because I want to hear what I want to hear and I don't want to hear what I don't want to hear. So I put in the effort. It may take me as long as a couple minutes sometimes to find the spot, but I find it and then I start listening. But anyway, so I'll there's from now on these podcasts, the big boys will have a visual aid. Whatever topic I'm currently on will be on the screen. Just look for it. And then you can know, like, okay, hey, this is something I might give a shit about. Let me back it up. So it's a compromise. It takes a little longer, but it doesn't take very much longer. I put a text bar all the way across the podcast, chop it, edit the text. It's pretty simple. It doesn't take you long. I'm just trying not to spend a huge amount of time on shit. This is pretty quick. So maybe it helps a couple of you, and it doesn't take much longer. Like, I just don't have much more time to sink into shit. So that's the thing. I'm trying to work with you. I understand that this concept alienates some people. If there's no chapter breaks for a 3-hour video, you just don't listen. Well, then don't listen, and no hard feelings. You go your way, I'll go my way. We're still friends. But I just can't put in the time for that. So that's why there's no chapter breaks. Maybe someday, if I get far enough ahead on this shit, if I got like 2 extra podcasts in the can and I finish next month's podcast, I finished it the first week. Hey, I got time to put in chapter breaks. I will definitely try it. I've never done chapter breaks. There's a way to do it on YouTube. I need to learn, and I've never taken the time to learn because that feels very time consuming to me. So, but if I reach that scenario where July 1st podcast is finished on June 7th, that gives me almost a damn whole month to figure out the chapter breaks. I'll work on it. I promise. If we ever get to that point. All right. So feedback's a separate episode, but there's going to be now that we're in a new year, new season, new format. Going to be doing some new things here. Going to be doing corners specific to specific anime. One of the complaints I've listened to has been, in my anime podcast, I don't really talk about specific anime enough. And so I'm going to have some rotating corners, and a corner, basically, I got this from the Cortex podcast. No, I think it was Hello Internet. Same guy, different podcast. The Hello Internet podcast. Basically, a corner is you specifically talk about a specific topic that's kind of a tangent, right? To the podcast. So it's like a sidebar to the podcast. So you're going to have a One Piece corner. Right now, this podcast at least, you're going to have a One Piece corner, a Black Clover corner, and a Gintama corner. Now, if you know how many other anime I listen to, so if you didn't hear the anime you want me to hear me talk about in those 3, if you want me to talk about, for instance, here's some of the others I'm doing. Let me go down to my list here. Currently, this is my ranks. I'm also doing what the hell is the name of this? I use this shorthand, but I need to actually give you the actual name of this. Mashoka Tensei. That's one of them. Okay. Mashoka Tensei. Maybe I can remember that over the course of this podcast. Demon Slayer, Boruto, Jujutsu Kaisen, Apothecary Diaries. If you want me to do a corner on any of those, talk about it in the comments. And if I get at least 2 comments asking for a specific corner, like for instance, Apothecary Diaries corner, if at least 2 people ask, I'll do a corner the next time and I'll talk about it. It'll be something related to it. Like you'll see, you'll get the vibe here. So I've got those corners. We're gonna still doing the anime episode highlight. Main topic's gonna be shorter because I'm putting some of these corners in here. One of the problems I've been having is I feel like after talking about the main topic for half an hour, I feel like I was thinking that the main topic should be an hour, and I was having trouble getting to an hour, and I don't want to just put in filler. You know how with anime fans we all hate filler. We want to be concise. So I'm taking the pressure off by adding these corners. We're talking about more anime, and then the main topic can just be the length it's going to be, whatever length it'll be. I don't feel pressure to add time to it. So then every now and then we may do other animations, still doing the hot take, and then the anime watching ranks. Now this particular episode, the hot take and the main topic are the same thing because I'm gonna go on for a while about this one. So my main topic is also my hot take. You've already seen the title. Reaction videos are not IQ tests, so we'll be getting to that later. All right. Let's start off with the One Piece corner. This is a question that's been on my mind for a while. It started with Klaus. Klaus is the one who first got me into One Piece in the first place. Anybody who enjoys my One Piece reactions, enjoys my obsession with One Piece, including me, by the way, should thank Klaus. Because I would have never started without him. Now, maybe I would have. Maybe 6 months later, some other person would have come up to me and basically give me a full court press. Because not only did he talk incessantly about me watching the show, he eventually sponsored like the first 15 episodes. It was enough to bait the hook. It got the hook in my mouth. I was like, okay, I guess I like the show. I'm going to start doing it. And I started doing it, and then there was a lot of good feedback and stuff. And the rest was history. I don't know, though. Like, maybe I would still not be doing One Piece at this point. And One Piece has been very good for my channel. So it's been very, and I've also really enjoyed it. It's my favorite anime of all time, right? So I think that, we can all thank Klaus. I think it would not have happened without him. Maybe it would have in some other form, some other way. Maybe I'd be on episode 200 right now. But we're where we are right now because of Klaus. So we should all thank Klaus. He occasionally listens to these podcasts as well. So definitely thank you. But his opinion is One Piece is ass since the time skip. So, first question on the deck. Which is better, before the time skip or after the time skip? The time skip is a clear delineation. HIG was talking about how, there's parallels. The first before the time skip parallels after the time skip, and he's got a solid amount of evidence for this, a lot of evidence for this. It's been great. So there's the writer is doing some thematic things with the before time skip and after time skip that's been very interesting. But the show is different after the time skip. So which one do you like better, before the time skip or after the time skip? For a long time, I liked before the time skip. Now I like after the time skip. But I like them both, obviously. But before we get too far in that conversation, here's another question. What is your favorite part of One Piece? The characters, the fights, the mythology, the world building, the comedy, or the big bad? What is, of those, what is your favorite part of One Piece? For me, it's the characters. Specifically the Straw Hats. I love the Straw Hats. I love their relationships with each other. I love their individual personalities. I love how they bounce off each other, no matter what the circumstances. I love their interactions. Even Sanji. Yes, even Sanji. So, you get more of that before the time skip. After the time skip, the author obviously gets bored with them. We've talked about it many times. And he starts focusing on the guest stars and the enemies. It's clear as day. And because I love the characters so much, the characters are my favorite part. I loved pre-time skip because the characters are better. The Straw Hats are better. We spend more time with them. We get more characterization. We have gotten some characterization much more with Sanji. He may be the only one. I don't know. He got the big storyline. He may be the only one. I do feel like, it wasn't just Sanji's characterization, it's also how the other characters felt about him and the way they interacted with him when he was telling them to leave and leave him alone and let him have his fate and all that crap. Like, specifically Nami and Luffy. You know, like when he was having that confrontation with them, you know, when they attacked his wagon train or whatever it was, and then they were shouting at each other. You know, that was interesting. I mean, that told us more about Nami and Luffy, but mainly Sanji. But still, like, you know, most of the characterization and everything happened pre-time skip. So for a long time, I loved the pre-time skip storyline more because we got more of the characters I love the most. But I do love the mythology, which we're getting more of post-time skip. The fights are about the same. The fights are better after time skip, but the fights have never been my main thing. You know, like they're okay. Okay, if I was to rank these as a tier list, starting from the bottom, 1 through 6, 1 being my favorite thing, 6 being my least favorite thing, but I still like it, but it's just my least favorite thing. 6 is the fights. 5 is the world building. You know, the world building's okay. It's interesting, but you know, there's only we've kind of got there. Like, there's not much else they can do with the world building at this point, so it's 5. The mythology is 4. I really love the shit, but you know, it's been kind of slow rolled, but still, I love the mythology. Like, I love all this shit, by the way. None of this is bad, but mythology is 4. Comedy is 3. The big bads are 2. The big bads have all been excellent, very interesting characters, especially lately. So the big bads are 2, and the Straw Hats characters are number 1. Those are my favorite things. Okay. Since the time skip, the big bads, the mythology have been better. So the fights have been better too. So I guess those 3 things have definitely been better. The comedy's been the same, and the world building has been worse only because we already know most of everything. Most of the world building in the first half was new. It was discovery. Oh shit! Wow, this is cool. Oh, this is how this works. Oh, this is how this works. So the world building was better in the first half, simply because we didn't know anything. We were learning shit for the first time, but it was better. So pre-time skip, only 2 things were better: the characterization of the Straw Hats, and the world building. Everything else after the time skip has been better. So I've kind of been slowly being dragged over to the other side, where after the time skip, the show has been better. So for me, the answer to the question, is One Piece ass after the time skip? The answer to that question is, it depends on what you like and how you rank those 6 things: the characters, the fights, the mythology, the world building, the comedy, and the big bad. What is most important to you, to me, will determine what you like pre-time skip versus post-time skip. I bet Klaus likes, his list would start with the characters is the most important thing. The world building is the second most important thing. Maybe the comedy is the third. Like I said, the comedy's been about the same pre and post, and then everything down from there. So because of that, he values the pre-time skip more. And it feels like the show has gone off the rails since the time skip. What is your opinion? Is the show better before the time skip or after the time skip? And where would you rank those 6 categories? So to me, that's what I think is going on. And so this gives you an idea of what I mean by One Piece Corner. We can talk about we can talk about a character, we can talk about an episode, we can talk about a theme, we can talk about a fan discussion. I think one of the biggest fan discussions has been, do you like One Piece pre-time skip, post-time skip? I address one aspect of an anime. That's the concept of a corner for an anime. So if you want me to do that for your favorite anime, like I said, leave a comment, and then if we can collect some comments together, I'll start doing other series. There's no limit. I could do 10 corners per episode. I don't care. Like, these podcasts are going to be as long as they are. There is no limit. It's not like the mini podcasts. I really try to keep it 30 to 45 minutes, if at all possible. I'm verbose, not always possible, but I try to. Let's go to the Black Clover corner. Yami is a horrible leader. He's an abusive asshole. I love his character. I don't think he should be in charge of the Black Bulls. Now, for clarity's sake, I first came up with the idea of this topic when I was up at episode 52. I'm up to episode 58 now. Yeah, I just watched 58 before I started recording this podcast. So, that's where I'm at. And as of episode 58, we haven't seen him in a few episodes, so nothing's changed. He's just not a good leader. He should be a second in command. He shouldn't be in charge of people. Now, there's some subtleties and there's some nuance here where it seems like he's a great recruiter. He can go into a crowd and see the 2 people who would make perfect Black Bulls. He's a really good recruiter. He'd be a great executive officer, a great second in command. He just shouldn't be in charge. because he's a terrible manager of people. He's terrible with feedback. Basically, his idea of feedback is I'm going to kill you guys later instead of killing you right now. Don't get me wrong, he's hilarious. But we're talking about if we're actually living in this world, this is not a man you want in charge of you. He's not a good leader. He's trash. And I think somebody should take over the Black Bulls and he should be dropped down to second in command. He'd probably be happier. He wants to take naps and take a dump all the time and be lazy and all this shit and gamble his money away. Essentially is what he wants to do, right? I do find it funny he recently won for the first time in series history he actually won at gambling. And he used the money to buy food for his team. He's a great guy. He's got a big heart. That was nice. But I just think there's a bigger issue here. This could actually be a podcast topic in itself because it's so prevalent. Like, domestic violence is just so prevalent in this show. This author thinks people who like each other beating the dog shit out of each other, just beating somebody to a pulp, rearranging their face, giving them a concussion, breaking their jaw, smashing their orbital socket. He thinks that's the funniest thing that's ever happened. Like, I watched episodes 53 to 58 in the last couple days. And there's been at least 10 times we've seen domestic violence be different characters. There's this new guy they introduced, Fenzel or whatever. His wife beats the dog shit out of him. Asta gets his arms back, spoiler alert, and they immediately beat the three of them, just immediately start wailing on him, just beating the dog shit out of him. Just blanket party. That's where you throw a blanket over somebody and just start wailing on him, man. It's not cool. This ain't cool, man. You can't do that to people. So the author thinks domestic violence is hilarious. And maybe that's one of the biggest problems here. He thinks it's funny as hell. But back to Yami. And this must be a symptom of the author, right? The author's psychotic. I don't want to be in a relationship with the author. That's for goddamn sure. He will beat the shit out of you, man. But Yami will pick up Asta, who's tiny, and Yami's big. He's basically a roided out Fonzie, if you don't watch the show. Pick him up by his head and squeeze his head like he's going to crush him. And when the first episode I saw today was 54. He was like this, man. He was carrying him by his head. Carrying him by his head. Like, you asshole. Like, just carried him by his head, man. Just la la la, Like, that can't be good for your neck. Basically, you're supporting the weight of your body with your neck if somebody carries you by your head. I just don't think that's good. It is funny. The author thinks it's way funnier than I do, but some of it is funny. I have to admit, it's funny. But I just think, look, if we take it in the spirit it's given, if we just look at the universe, as it's presented, and yes, I know it's mostly comic relief, but if we just look at it, I don't think Yami's a good leader. I just don't, man. Like, he's abusive, and I don't like the way he talks to people. There's one of the problems is, and I learned this from my dad, who is a great leader. Leadership is identifying, you got 10 people you're leading. That requires 10 different styles of management. This person works best when you praise them. This person, when you praise them, they get nervous and anxious, and it makes them worse at their job. So you find other ways to let them know you appreciate them without praising them. This person needs to be yelled at to work well. This person needs a father or a mother. They need a parental figure. This person needs a friend. This person, if you yell at them, they shut down. So you don't yell at them, you just be very nice to them. Every person requires a different type of management style. The best leaders know this, identify it, and utilize it. And they're different with every person. But beyond it all, you're equal, but, basically you don't treat everybody the same, but you treat everybody fairly, is the thing. You're fair to everybody. And there's only so far anybody can push you, and you're not going to bend over and kiss their ass. But this person, you're more gentle. This person, you're harder because they can take it. That's the best manager. And he just treats everybody exactly the same. He talks shit to them. He talks down to them. He abuses them. He says he's going to kill them, so basically threatening bodily harm. Never good. And so, like I said, he's a terrible leader. He's an abusive, asshole, lazy, and he doesn't know how to modify his managerial style. Now, to say something nice about him, I think he's really intelligent. Like I say, he's a perfect recruiter. He really knows how to recruit people. This person will be good for my team. He can identify talent. He's good at that. I think he's more strategic than he lets people believe he is. I don't think he's actually as lazy as he lets people believe he is. And he will lay down his life for any member of his team. These are all good qualities. I'm not saying he's trash across the board. I just think he'd be a perfect second in command. Somebody else should be in command. Maybe that'll happen later in the series, and maybe that's the point of what they're presenting to us. Like he'll be better in a different spot. Or maybe he gets promoted up somehow, somewhere, becomes a personal guard to the Wizard King or something, or could he become Wizard King even? If something ever happens to Julius before Aster or gets to that spot, I think collectively, but we'll see what happens. If you get promoted up, somebody else would have to take over the Bulls, right? So who would be a good leader? Of the people that are currently members of the Bulls, who would be a better leader? Oddly enough, it might be Vanessa. Vanessa's showing me things. We're in a witch arc right now. She's showing me depths I didn't realize. She might be a better leader. You need somebody who's empathetic, who doesn't have some obsessive compulsive personality quirk like most of them do on the Bulls. Like Charmy, terrible. Gordon, you couldn't understand any of the orders he gave you. Gray is just too scared. It gets progressively worse from there. Like imagine Luck being the leader. I order you to fight me. Well, anyway, those are my thoughts. I think Yami, he is trash as a leader. So, all right, moving on to the Gintama corner. This one will be familiar to people who have who steadily watched my Gintama reactions, but hopefully this will be short. If you don't watch them, I think you should probably still listen to this if you want to, because why do I have this on? Just automatic. I start recording and put my headphones on. That don't make any sense. Anyway, I prefer the one-shot episodes over the arcs. I just think the one-shot episodes are funnier, and I'm here for the comedy. Yes, there is drama, and sometimes they have some messy shit that I really like the stuff with Kaguya and her father can be interesting, but for the most part, I'm here for the show for it being funny. And I think the one-shots are when they get the funniest. There are possible exceptions. The one with the race for the idol, that whole arc was consistently hilarious. And there's some things you can't do unless you have more time. The problem I have with that is they had so much filler. It was like that arc was like 7 episodes long. And they only had enough material for 4 episodes. So they had to pad the front and back of each episode to fill that time. They were spreading the butter too thin on the bread, right? So, I don't know. I mean, it's this. I prefer the one-shots. I think the one-shots are consistently hilarious. I had one recently involving Kaguya couldn't get to sleep. And then this guy was listening to a podcast about scary stories, and it woke him out of his sleep. It was so goddamn scary. He woke up out of his sleep and he kicked the radio across the room. That was so funny, man. Very, very funny. So, I don't think this is a particularly hot take. I'm curious what the fan base thinks. I think most of them seem to prefer the story arcs. And people seem to want action. And they do the movies with the action, right? And so, I think there's just so many other places you can get action in anime. I'm here for the comedy. And the guy has such a unique voice. And I've been told he hasn't done anything after Gintama of some one-shots and shit. Maybe he shot his wad. Maybe he's just creatively spent. I don't know. But this dude is hilarious. And the showrunners are hilarious. The filler they do, they know what they're doing. I think they're different people than the guy who did the manga. But the showrunners are hilarious. And the anime-only jokes they do are really good. So, it's a great show. I recommend it to anybody. But personally, my one thing about the show, the thing that comes to mind when I first think about it, which will be why the first corner is about this, is I prefer the one-shots to the story arcs. I think that it should lean more into the comedy and less in the drama. And by the way, I really do believe the manga author wants to be a romance author. He just couldn't get it. Nobody would pay him to read. Nobody would pay him to read his romance. And that's what he really wants. He wants to do tragic romance stories. Love lost. We could have been lovers, but you playing. That kind of shit. That seems to be what he wants to do. He got rejected, so he did comedy and he keeps sneaking in his romance crap. F your romance, man. Stick to the comedy. Editing me here. I just realized something. When I did my marathon, which was about a week before I recorded the podcast, I stopped my marathon and actually recorded a segment, pre-recorded segment for the podcast, because something occurred to me and I didn't want to forget. So I did that. But guess what? I forgot. When I was recording the podcast, I completely forgot I did that. So what you're going to see now is a pre-recorded segment. I guess we can call this a Gansey corner. I wasn't intending to do a corner for the Gantz, whatever the anime is called. I finished watching it. I haven't finished the anime, but I finished what Paul, my sponsor, wanted me to watch. And so that was up through episode 8 of season 2. But I recorded this after watching episode 7 of season 2. And, we'll just call this a Gantz corner. Like, this will be the only one probably because I've stopped watching it now. But I'm going to do random corners for random anime. Like I said, I say later. You'll see later. I said previously, but you'll see later. Let me know what anime you want me to do a corner on. It can even be a past anime. Attack on Titan, some unfinished, Fullmetal, Alchemist, Brotherhood, whatever. Just leave your suggestions in the comments. But this is an impromptu, unscheduled, didn't remember when I was recording the podcast, Gantz Corner. I'm actually in the middle of my marathon, so I don't have a lot of time because I have to do at least one episode of an anime each hour. Right now, it's almost 2:30 in the morning. I'm 3 episodes into the marathon, 2.5 hours in. But I just realized something. I want to get my thoughts on camera right now, immediately after realizing this. Because I watched episode 7 of season 2 of Gansey, and it just occurred to me. I've mentioned this many times about how anime time doesn't make sense. And it's just something everybody goes with. We watch anime, we put up with it because it's what happens. They call it anime time for a reason. It's 10 minutes of screen time can happen in 2 seconds of time for the characters. This dude will have a whole ass monologue, internal monologue. He'll have flashbacks, all these things. Meanwhile, the energy blast is heading towards his friend. The enemy has released an energy blast. It's heading towards his friend. And then, meanwhile, this guy will have the flashback. He'll have the internal monologue that's like a 6-page monologue. Then he'll run over there and he'll block the blast just in time, even though everything, the entire monologue and all that shit happened after the energy blast had been released. Energy should travel about the speed of light. So there'd be no time. It makes no sense. But we put up with it because that's just anime. It's called anime time for a reason. I think there's actually a second issue here that it never occurred to me until now. Mainly, and this is, and probably most of you have not watched Gantz, however, I'll just call it Gantz. No other pronunciation makes sense, but that's not how they pronounce it. But I don't want to stumble on that every time I say it. So, point is Gantz. Probably most of you haven't seen it. So let me lay out the situation for you. We're inside a small room, probably the size of a large house's living room, maybe. It's like a temple. But it's not a huge temple, and there's not like pews or seats or anything. It's just like a lobby area, and then a bunch of statues, and taking up most of the rest of the space, right? So probably from the door to where you can't move forward anymore is probably about 20 feet, okay? So you have a character standing at the door. Then you have a character halfway into the room, so about 10 feet from the door. Then there's an enemy. He's a statue, but there's an enemy 10 feet further into the room. So 20 feet from the door, 10 feet from the person in the middle of the room, 20 feet from the other person standing at the door, right? So, bad guy releases some acid. And the acid has to travel 10 feet in the air before it hits the guy standing in the middle of the room. The woman in the back of where the door is, realizes she needs to protect this man. She has a monologue. About how to protect him. So that's typical anime time shit, monologue. Then she moves forward, gets in between. Now remember, the person standing here, enemy is here. She is where my head is, okay? So, guy being protected is here, enemy is here, she's where my head is. So not only does she have to close the 10 feet to get to the guy, but she has to move past the guy and move in between that guy and the enemy, okay? So 10 feet over in front. In the time that the acid has to travel 10 feet in the air. So obviously, just on the surface of it, there's no way she can get to him and get in front of the guy before the acid reaches the guy. Enemy releases the acid. She has the internal monologue. We don't even care about the internal monologue. The internal monologue takes 5 minutes of screen time. We don't even care about that. That's not even what I'm talking about. I'm talking about no monologue. You have to travel 10 feet and get around to in front of the guy. So, clearly impossible, right? But I think the biggest issue here, the reason why writers do this shit, is they've never shot a film. They've never been a director. Specifically, they've never been a director. Even been a producer, you may not pick up on this. But if you're a director of a live action film, everything kind of clicks into place. And that may be one of the reasons why I've been stumbling against this for all the time I've been stumbling against this. Because you have to block out the scenes, right? And it has to make sense because in live action, things happen 1 second, takes 1 second. It's not like anime time. Now, you can fudge with that with live action. You can do close-ups, you can do cutaways, and then we don't know exactly, because they do this all the time when they're trying to defuse a bomb, and the bomb has 20 seconds on the timer, and then the guy does something for 20 seconds, and you look back, only 5 seconds have passed. That's anime time. But what you're not understanding, though, is that's the final cut. They still have to shoot the scene, right? And when you shoot a scene, you start with the wide shot. So the wide shot takes place, you can see the entire room, okay? So the wide shot, imagine we're looking at a cross-section of the room. To the right is a doorway. In center of the camera is a guy standing in the middle of the room. To the left of the camera is the bad guy, okay? The wide shot, the cameras can see all three things. You can see the doorway with the girl. You can see the person in the middle of the room. You can see the bad guy on the left. Now, like I said, this isn't what's going to be in the final cut. You may start with the wide shot, but then you do a bunch of close-ups and inserts and stuff, and then it all gets edited together, and it all looks fine. It's all very cinematic. But before you do any of that, you shoot the wide shot. And when you shoot the wide shot, it has to make sense geographically. That's why you block it out. We get on the set on the day, okay, you're standing here, he's here, this guy's to the left. He's going to simulate. We're not going to do the acid effect on a wide shot. Probably not. You may do something that simulates maybe the how long it would take. Like maybe you have a cup of water and you throw the water out. Probably not water because then you have to clean up the floor. So probably a cup of glitter would be maybe something you would use just to simulate. It's easy to sweep up and it's maybe not like shiny glitter. But something like sand. That's probably what you'd use. A cup of sand. Something to simulate the action for the wide shot. Then you worry about the details and making it actually look cinematic when you do the close-ups, inserts, and everything. So, you have the wide shot and you have to block it out. Okay. When I say action and point to you, you run to the guy in the middle. Get in front and before the sand hits the guy. Okay? She's 10 feet away. I say start. She runs. The sand hits the guy before she gets halfway to it. Shit. That's not going to work. Now, like I said, you do close-ups, you do inserts, but it has to work in the wide shot for everything to fit together and for it to make sense. Now, sometimes you may specifically say, we don't give a shit about the wide shot. Let's pretend. You can do that. Most directors don't do that. Directors need it to make sense in the wide shot before they move on, before you do anything else. That's just the way the mind works, right? If it's not working in a wide shot, you're not sure how you're going to cut it all together for it to make sense. So what you end up doing is you say, okay, well, bad guy, how about you start a little bit further away? And you have to move forward to your mark. You have to move forward 5 feet before you throw the thing. So when you start moving, she's going to start moving from the doorway. Okay, so you bad guy move 5 feet away. Okay, I'll signal both of you at once. Bad guy starts moving, girl starts moving. Bad guy moves 5 feet to his mark, then he throws the sand. Meanwhile, girl leaves the doorway immediately, runs the 10 feet to the guy, gets in front, and then she'll block the sand. So we do it. Okay, go. Bad guy reaches his mark. It is 5 feet away, but he reaches his mark and he goes like this, and the sand still goes too fast. Now, she reaches the guy, but before she can get around, the sand hits him. So it's like, shit, it's still not working. Okay. How about earlier in the scene, girl walks 2 steps towards the guy. She's talking to him. She walks 2 steps forward. She's closer. We'll make her closer. Okay. Sending you both at the same time. Bad guy moves forward 5 feet, mark, throws the sand. Girl is 2 feet closer. She runs. Now she can get around, but she's only halfway around. And the sand, some of the sand hits her, some of the sand hits the guy. Shit, it's still not working. You see the process here, right? We have to do things to speed up the person we want to get there fast enough and do things to slow down the bad guy so he's not too fast. And you keep working this shit. Because there's one thing to have it written on a page, but then you get there to the location and it has to work in 3-dimensional space with actual human beings moving at a speed that makes sense. You could have bad guy moving real slow, but again, it has to make sense in a wide shot. Like, you're not going to move on till it makes sense in a wide shot. Then you can, or you may just say, look, we only have this location for 6 hours. We have to get the shots. We'll figure it out in editing. But then it's never going to be quite right. Then you're cheating. That's where you get like cheesy action scenes and the chopping MTV style editing where it's like, they're just moving too fast and all this shit, right? It kind of just doesn't add up. So, in ideal circumstances, you make it work in the wide shot, and then everything else is going to flow from there. Then you can get all the extra shots you need, inserts, close-ups, different angles, and all that stuff. So, through this process, you realize human geometry, human speeds that make sense, because you have to have them moving at a speed that makes sense. She's running. She can't run too fast. There's only so fast she can run. Especially if she's going to, we're getting audio, and we don't want her sounding like John Candy trying to walk across the room or something, like she want her breathing too heavy. It has to make sense, and also just the fact if you're running too fast to get from the door to the guy, she also has to stop, turn around, and block. So then she's going to skid like, Bugs Bunny going too far or something. So she can't run too fast because then she has to adjust and get in front for it to flow and look elegant, right? We don't want this to look like a comedy. It's supposed to be a dramatic situation. So she can't run too fast. There's only so fast she can go. There's only so slow the bad guy can go. So then you start messing with how close and far away people are. Or maybe they stop. I've even had things where it's like something distracts them. And then we do a close-up where somebody's walking into the room or looking through the window or something. That distracts them for a second. Then they get back and they start focusing on things. We've had to do that before. To slow down the bad guy, right? And through the process of all this, you really start to get the feel for a 3-dimensional space and human beings moving within it and what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. And I think 15 years of me doing this is one of the biggest problems I have with like a lot of this anime. Where like there's just no way in hell she could be where she was and that guy could be throwing the acid from where he was and her get to where she got to for her to take the acid blast and protect him. There's just no way it works. It doesn't work, man. There's no way in hell. It doesn't make sense, even in anime time. Because the problem isn't the time she took for the monologue, which is typically the problem we have. And we just all blow it off because that's anime. They have a long monologue. It passes through their head really fast, and then the action continues. But in this particular case, it's so clear because the scale and the definition of what's happening is crystal clear because we see the space of the room, and we see where she starts, and we see where he is, and we see where the bad guy is. It makes it so clear that it doesn't work. Plus, we know just mentally we can figure out how long it takes for water to pass from this person to this person. We're talking a half a second. I think the issue is if these manga authors had done blocking of live action movies, if they had ever blocked a single scene, and it doesn't have to be the kind of action we're talking about, a lot of times the issue is you come in a room, you go over, you pick up a book, you go over, you sit down, and while through the process of you doing all this, the person sitting at the desk has time to open up a drawer, pull out a gun, and hide the gun under the desk without you seeing it. He doesn't know to get the gun until you walk in the room, but he has to have time to have a gun before you sit down across the desk from him. How did we make this work? Okay, you're walking too fast. We need you to walk slower to the bookcase, so be talking, and you're distracted by talking, so you're walking slower than normal. And we need you to scan the bookcase for 3 seconds to find the book you're looking for with your back to the desk. So you walk over to the bookcase, It takes you 3 seconds to find the book you want. Not 5 seconds, not 10 seconds, not 2 seconds. It takes you 3 seconds. Count it down in your head. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I found the book. All right. Then you turn around. By the time you turn around, he has the gun under the desk. And you don't notice motion. So we do it, and we get this, and we say action, and he walks over there, and he finds the book too fast. He turns around, and we can see the guy's arm moving where the character would have seen it. Shit, we got to shoot it again. All right, take 4 seconds to find the book. These are the kind of adjustments you make, right? So the process of doing this dozens and dozens of times for 15 years, it just comes naturally. You can just kind of naturally figure, this doesn't feel right. I got to the point where I could look at a script. All right, well, we just don't have enough time for this to happen. But you don't truly know until you get to the room. Maybe you get in the room and there's a big ass sofa or high back chair or something. The chair in front of the desk is a high back chair. It would block his arm from where the character's standing. Okay, fine, that works perfectly. The chair blocked his arm, so he can't see the arm move under the desk. So you have to get into space to be sure. But a lot of times you're like, I don't see how that's going to work. But we'll see when we get there. That's exactly what you would tell yourself. So I just think a big problem we have here with manga is the manga authors don't have the experience of working with real life human beings in real 3-dimensional spaces. So they just don't, you don't know what you don't know. They don't know that they don't know this. In their mind, it makes sense because they're just using the imagination. Just like a writer's using imagination when they write it in a script. But then the director and the actors have to actually make it work. Well, that don't make any damn sense. And I can't tell you how many times I wrote some bullshit, and we got there on the set, and the actors were like, this don't make any sense. I'm like, shit, you're right. It's very humbling. But it's also very educational. You learn a lot from it. So, I just think it's interesting. I just thought this was something I'd bring out. I think it's basically a weakness we have for the writers in that if they have some filmmaking experience, or just do it with your friends, man. Like, and not that there's any manga writers who can ever listen to my podcast, but just in case, you never know. Maybe they listen to my podcast before they became famous manga writers, 10 years from now. I'll be long gone, but, they can take this knowledge with them. Do it with your friends. Get 3 friends over here. You've written a scene for your manga. Work it out with them in physical space and see if it works. So, I don't know, just something interesting. All right, I need to get back to this took way too long. I need to get back to my marathon. So, I'll see you there. All right, well, moving ahead. Anime episode highlight. Musho Tensei, whatever. Brilliant first episode. I talk about the brilliant pilots. This will be the 3rd time I focus on a pilot episode in this podcast, saying it's the best pilot I've ever seen. The Baby Daddies, or whatever the hell that one was. I really want to get back to that show because that pilot was brilliant. That was very funny. Baby Daddy Hitman. What the hell was that show called? Anyway, this one was brilliant. If you haven't seen it, I'm just like they do this at the very beginning, so I'm not spoiling anything for you. This dude gets hit by a bus, wakes up inside the head of a baby as he's coming out of his mother, and basically lives inside the head of a person starting to grow up in a magical kingdom that's different than our world. And he's conscious the whole time. And somehow I forgot to talk about this during that reaction. I'm going to react to more of it, by the way. But I forgot to talk about this. Somehow he has his memories of the other world, even though he has a different physical body, and that's not possible. Memories are biological. They're stored. I can point to my brain where they are. If this consciousness goes into a different body, it has a different brain, which has different physical memories. That's all you have access to. You can't be in this body accessing the biological memories of me. You can't do it, man. Body swaps don't work like that. If I go into your body and you go into my body, you're going to think you're me and I'm going to think I'm you. Because I only have access to your memories. You only have access to my memories. That's biology. It's science, bitch. It's science. That's the way science works. I didn't invent science. That's science. Can't do it. Of course, scientifically, we can't take a consciousness out and put it somewhere else. So nobody can prove this. But you could hand wave it by saying he has a psychic connection to his previous body so he can access those memories. But there's a problem with that. His previous body is dead. That brain is rotting. Those neurons are rotting. They're dead. You can't access a dead body's memories, which is why this whole remembered past lives shit is crap. Oh, You're Cleopatra? You remember Cleopatra's life? No, you don't. Cleopatra has been dead for 1,000 years. Her body is dust. Those neurons containing those memories are dust. Nobody can access them. Not even God. The memories are gone because memories are biological. We can point to the brain where the memories are. They're gone. Ain't nobody accessing Cleopatra's memories. Past lives are bullshit. Reincarnation may very well be true. I wish it was. I hope it was. I actually kind of think it is. But remembering past lives is crap because those brains are gone. So he shouldn't be able to access the memories of his previous body inside this baby's brain. And baby heads are small, and they don't have the space to store an adult's memories. I think he's like a kid. No, he was 38, an adult's memories. He was like 35 or 38. So 38 years of memories in a baby's brain? I don't think so. Now, we could just say, but magic, okay, I guess. I mean, it's not, I don't really have a problem. This isn't really a major stumbling block for the series. I'm just pointing this out. But anyway, that aside, me being in my nerd bag aside, it's one of the cleanest, best pilots I've ever seen. It really sucks you into the world, and it really interesting. It raises a couple ethical dilemmas. He's a grown-ass man looking at his mom's titties and saying it's awesome. He does eventually stop being attracted to his mom, I guess because it's his mom. That gets a little weird. But at least his tutor, that he's like 5 in love with his female tutor, but at least she's closer in age than 25 years. So I think his mom's like 25. I don't know. It gets a little weird. But it's really good. It's a brilliant pilot. Well done. You don't typically see narration in anime for the most part. Usually you have an extra narrator, somebody who's not a character who narrates. Don't typically see the character narrating, which I think we get in this. So, I don't know. I think everybody should go check it out. I'm doing reaction. I'm going to be doing more. Let me know if you're here on YouTube if you want these to migrate to YouTube. So, comment if I get enough comments, I'll start taking it to YouTube. This is something I think people might like me to watch. Just the general public, because this is a Patreon sponsorship. Somebody sponsored this series. Let me know if you want me to continue. But yeah, so that's my anime episode highlight. Muishi Tensei, whatever that was called, episode 1. I think I wrote it out down here, didn't I? I did not. I was lazy. Damn it. All right. Well, anyway, let's get to the main topic. Now, the main topic, as you have seen from the podcast title, which would be here, reactions are not IQ tests. And basically, I wrote a post on Reddit, let me see how long ago it was. 20 days ago. It's still been on my mind ever since I wrote this. I wrote this for the Normies subreddit because people keep saying the Normies are morons. Just steady in their comments talking about how they're idiots and morons. And I wanted to push back on that because I don't think they are morons. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to read my post verbatim because I spent a lot of time writing this out. And I think it's well put. It's better than I can just put off the cuff. So I'm going to start by reading this post full out. If you want to see the post itself, it's over in the Normie subreddit from 20 days ago called Reactions Are Not IQ Tests. But it's still bugging me, so I'm going to put it here. All right, starting the quote. We've all seen the comments. This normie or that normie is a moron. By the way, we can, end quote. We can extend this out. I talk more generally, not just about the normies, but this, I've seen this in all the comment sections of every reaction channel, including my own. This isn't really me defending myself because most people, I don't really get this a lot from me. Very rarely do I have somebody saying I'm a moron. Somebody may say, hey, you missed this. Here, let me add this context. But nobody is sitting there saying I'm an idiot or a moron, for the most part. A couple of people, not really. What pisses me off, I keep seeing it on other channels. Because I watch these videos, I look at the comments, and people, especially normies, but not just them, they do this for a lot of people, and I get tired of seeing it. So this is pushing back for general, not just the normies, pushing back in general for a lot of these channels. So anyway, let's start over. We've all seen the comments. This normie or that normie is a moron because they didn't catch something, misheard something, or talked over something. All of them are idiots because they didn't get the show. But what drives me to post this is not normie specific because I've seen this at every reaction channel I visit. So this post isn't about defending the normies. It's about the flaw in the premise. Most people aren't going to catch everything on a first watch under normal circumstances. Meanwhile, a reaction channel has to, React. Emphasis mine. Nobody wants to watch people blankly taking in everything to ensure they don't, oh no, make a mistake. Their job is to voice their instant impressions, the first blush thoughts that come to mind. If you're honest with yourself, a lot of the first things that come to mind when your ass watches something are equally unhinged until you get added context or rewatch it. Close quote. Yeah, man, there's no way you're catching everything on a show the first time. Maybe you're a galaxy brain. Maybe you're watching, you're leaning forward and you're watching the screen and you've got the subtitles on and you pause every 2 minutes to write down nuances and stuff. Wait a minute, I think there's some nuances. Wait a minute, he's referring to this from 200 episodes ago. Let me look that up. Or just watching it straight through, your galaxy brain catches everything the first time. Maybe you're a unicorn. Maybe you are the one person in the world who can watch something the first time and get everything instantly, perfectly, as intended by the author. You're special. The rest of us aren't. Ain't nobody watching it like it. Your ass, when you watch it the first time, you're going to mess something up. Something. The problem is, then you've seen it 4 times, and then you come into reaction channels talking about, why didn't they catch that? When your ass didn't even catch it until like the 3rd time or something. I'm not saying you're a hypocrite, and I'm not talking about you specifically, but the big you, the capital you, all of you. Not you, though. You're cool. You've never done that. Open quotes. If you want someone who has full command of the material, what you're actually looking for is an essay channel. Hacks, Dogma, and Helly Refined are excellent at this. They pore over the text repeatedly, they know exactly what they're talking about, and often come up with things that never occurred to you even on repeated viewings. And then this is a quote, this is a parentheses inside, right? Helly noticed that in the first episode of Seven Kingdoms, every time Dunk is standing and someone is sitting, they are looking down upon him during the conversation. Close quotes. That was a brilliant observation, by the way. If you go look at the first episode of A Night of Seven Kingdoms, every time he's standing and the person is sitting, they're looking down upon him. It's not until they're sitting, he finally sits down with somebody that they have a conversation on an equal level, even though that person is a lord and should be above them. So that's a great observation she made. It didn't carry through for the rest of the series, but for the first episode, I'm sure that was her intention. It seems intentional. It happens about 4 or 5, 6 times. So it's very interesting that she noticed that. She only noticed that, she didn't notice that the first time she watched it. She probably watched that shit 10 times. Eventually noticed it and then reaffirmed to herself by watching it again to make sure she was right, and she was. That's the kind of... So if you're looking for somebody who has command of the material, somebody who has this shit on lock and knows everything about the show, if that's what you're looking for an essay channel. Go to Hacks, Dogma, Helly Refined, and there's a bunch more of them out there. Some of them are better than others. Daughterless Files. But I watch a lot of essay channels after I do a reaction. And then I watch other people's reactions. Occasionally there's some shows with Severance. Specifically, a couple on Silo. Some of these other shows, Night of Seven Kingdoms was one of them where Plurbius was a big one, where I watched a lot of essays. So that's what you want. If you're looking for perfect command of the material, you're not looking for a reaction channel, you're looking for an essay channel. So go do that. And if they get something wrong, you can definitely call them a moron because they poured over that shit 10 times. If they make a mistake, I think that's a lot more egregious. Open quotes. There's a second problem with this conceit, that a reaction channel needs to have full command of the material. Why do you need to watch someone tell you something you already know? Walter White takes on the characteristics of the people he kills. Yeah, I know that. I've known it for 12 years. I don't need to watch a reaction channel to see them notice this and tell me this. What? Is this some kind of media literacy test? I'm only going to let you entertain me if you can answer me these riddles 3? Think about it. Close quotes, by the way. You don't need somebody to tell you something you already know. So if there's something subtle, like there's a color scheme pattern that goes on with Breaking Bad, when the colors change, the character changes, it's all very subtle. It took me 5 times watching it before I noticed it, and then I wasn't sure what I was noticing, and then a bunch of the essay channels started coming out and started really getting deep into YouTube, and they really laid it out, and it's all really cool. Ain't nobody noticing that the first time through. And plus, on top of that, like I said, why do you need somebody to tell you that if you've already seen that? If you already know that? Like, for instance, my favorite piece of trivia for Severance is, At the end of episode 9 of season 1, which happens to be the end of the season, somebody says she's alive. At the end of episode 9 in season 2, which has one more episode after that, somebody says she's alive. Same line of dialogue, same character says it, different line delivery. But I love that. I love that they ended episode 9 of both seasons with the same line of dialogue from the same character that meaning something. It meant something different, and the delivery was different. I love that. I don't need a reaction channel to notice that and tell me that. I've already noticed it. I know this. I don't need them to notice that. Why do you need them to notice that, right? So, that's never made sense to me. Open quotes. I don't watch reactions so they can tell me that Makar didn't intend to kill his brother, which, by the way, close quotes, was what motivated me to do this post in the first place. Some of the normies thought that Makar intended to kill his brother. These are first blush reactions. Yes, that's stupid if you've seen the episode 2 or 3 or 4 times. In a first blush reaction, when you're in the moment, you're caught up in everything. Don't forget, if you see my reactions, Night of Seven Kingdoms, until episode 6, I thought he hated his brother. The way he acted in episode 2, he's laughing when his brother gets clowned, he's irritated when his brother gets praised, and he's just a generally surly person, telling everybody to F off and everything. You kind of come away with that, with the idea that he is, Makar kind of doesn't like his brother. So I kind of thought that he intended to kill his brother. Maybe not on purpose, but like, you're starting to swing, you're like, oh, that's my brother? All right, let me give it an extra juice. I kind of thought that on a first blush watch through. But if you've seen the entire series, you saw the rest of that episode, and you see somebody reach a scene before they've seen all the episode and had time to think about it, and they come to a different conclusion than the obvious conclusion, that doesn't make them a moron. And people were killing them in the comments for that, man. Killed them. It's a first blush reaction. So there's a different level there, right? Open quotes. I watch reactions because they will have a funny insight that never occurred to me. When Lupa of Yaboy Roshi, hope I'm pronouncing that right, called the goat people in Severance adults of the corn, that was something that would have never crossed my mind in 4,000 viewings. That observation was worth 100 misunderstandings of show concepts I figured out 4 years ago. I don't need them to tell me what I already know. I don't even need them to understand what they're watching. I just need to be entertained. That's why we're here, to be entertained. Just to finish off this post real quick. Back to the normies, they're funny as hell and entertaining. Isn't that the fucking point? I don't know, just something to think about. So that was a post I wrote 20 days ago. Now, people can be quick to misunderstand me. So to add some context to this, for this purpose, because that was a specific post for a specific purpose, plus I've had time to think about this the last 20 days. Obviously, you want people to understand the material. My thing, here's my benchmark. I believe you should understand episode 12 by the time you start watching episode 13. Now, sometimes I binge, like I've just watched Black Clover 53 through 58, so it's possible I have a misunderstanding in 54 that is carried through to 58. But then I post it, people correct me in the comments, I take that understanding into the episode 59. So my benchmark is people should eventually understand the material so they can continue, so they're not completely lost, and it's a completely frustrating thing to watch moving forward. But I have a problem with people expecting you to understand 53 at the end of 53. Or during 53. Calling somebody a moron because they missed a point. And, now they'll criticize for talking too much. Well, it's a effing reaction channel. You're supposed to talk. Nobody's sitting there paying you or wanting you to do this for the whole episode. If you want that, do a damn essay channel. So, personally, I like essay channels and reaction channels. Some people only like reaction channels, and some people only like essay channels. I happen to like both. But some people don't want an essay channel. Well, then you're going to get what you get during a reaction. Nobody's going to have perfect command of the material the first time they watch it. But what I'm saying is I think people should understand, even reaction channels should understand the material eventually. Now, many times I'll go back and rewatch a scene. I'm not sure I've really understood this. I'll go back and rewatch it. Sometimes on camera, sometimes after the fact. It's like, wow, that doesn't make any sense. Then I'll typically talk about it in the intro. And it's also why, besides the fact I'm broke, I personally edit all my edited reactions so that in the edit is another chance to understand material. And that has helped me. I can't tell you how many times I've noticed something in editing, corrected a misunderstanding I had, and it's, oh shit, that's what he meant. Re-saw something, recontextualized something, and I took that into the next reaction. I personally edit my own reaction. I know people like Normies and all these other big ones, even like the Dakara Jane, she's a solo reactor. She has editors. She edits some of her own shit, but mostly she has editors. So, I can't tell you how many times I have understood something better by editing. So I insist on doing my own editing. Even if I was rich, I would still do my own editing for that reason. So maybe with full reactions where I don't go and comb through every second anyway, I would have an editor do that. That would save me a little bit of time. But the edited reactions I would do myself. So I do believe it is incumbent upon the reaction channel to eventually understand the material. The problem I have is having this bar where you're supposed to understand the material instantaneously in the moment or you're a moron. I just 100% flat out disagree with that. So that's where I'm at. So this is something, and I don't, like I said, people who are probably going to watch this, unless you were attracted to this podcast, it went into your feed, you're listening to this for the first time. Maybe this doesn't apply to you, but mostly the people that are going to watch this are already on the same page with me, at least to the point where they're not calling me a moron. Now, there's plenty of people like, wait, you misunderstood this, you didn't understand that. This is some clarity on this. Remember, they literally said this. I actually had Ariel tell me this recently. They literally said this in the episode. That's how she phrased it. They literally said this in the episode. I'm like, oh shit, I guess I did. Okay, I missed it. The funniest thing will be like if they literally say it, I react to them saying it, and then later I act like they didn't say it. Like, look, I have a shitty memory. What can I do? I retain the important shit, I hope. Especially, for some reason, I think I'm a visual learner. That's why I like subtitles so much. The audio, because of my jacked up ears, tends to be hit or miss when I hear shit. When I read it, I tend to retain it better. So comments, I tend to retain comments better than I do like show dialogue for some reason, even though show dialogue can be subtitles. I tend to retain comments. Maybe because I give a shit about the people commenting. I don't know. I love comments. It's my favorite part of the day, reading comments. So just because I just put a heart on it doesn't. I read it. I don't put a heart on it if I don't read it. I read it. I just don't. A lot of times I don't have anything intelligent to say, or you covered it, or I'm kind of pressed for time. I just want to acknowledge I read it. Whatever. The feedback to the comments comes here, right? But typically, I do read it all, and I love all the comments, and like a lot of times I'll retain that information better. So when somebody tells me this is what this is about, oh yeah, okay, I get it. Yeah, all right, I get it. So that helps, right? So either if it comes from comments, if it comes from watching again, if it comes from clarifying a misunderstanding, or sometimes it'll be like, wait a minute, they're saying this, so that means that thing I thought can't be true. However it is, whatever the process is, I do believe it's incumbent on you to eventually understand what the hell you're watching. That would be nice if you would take the effort to do that. I just don't think the pressure should be on in-episode understanding. I'm just going to fundamentally disagree with that. I'd love to know what other people think. But, even beyond just the whole calling people morons thing, which I think we can all agree name calling is probably not a good thing. So we're probably on the same page there. But it's just, and they can take it. They're tough. The normies have been doing this for a long time. They make a lot of money. And I think the more money you make, the tougher you should be for criticism. Even people being assholes. If I'm making $5,000 a month, you can call me a dickhead. You can call me a fat effer if you want to. Whatever you want. If I'm making that much money, I don't give a shit what the hell you call me. I don't care now what you call me. I sure as hell don't care if I'm getting paid a lot. So people are being super mean to the normies in the comments, but I don't think they care. They're making a comfortable living. So, they get paid time off and everything, right? So, they've talked about it. They get PTO. So I think that's really cool for a reaction show. So anyway, they can take it, but I still think you're kind of shitty if you do it. It's that specific criticism. The specific criticism, That's just what I think. That's my hot take. It's also my main topic. Typically, my hot take will be different than my main topic, but in this particular case, they're going to be the same. Alrighty, well, I've actually kind of blown through this faster than I thought I would, so I guess I'll probably put the Q&A at the end of this podcast then. Probably, normally I put it right after my opening monologue. But in this case, I think we've proven in the past that more people will watch the main podcast rather than watch the Q&A. So you can just drop off. So when we reach up, now we're not there yet. Don't drop off yet. But we're getting there. Looks like I'll be able to put the Q&A at the end of this, so that'll be pretty good. Because all we have left now is current anime watching ranks. Here's my list from the bottom. Let me see. We have 9, it looks like. Number 9, One Piece. Now, to talk about One Piece here real quick. I've decided definitively, I probably talked about this already, but I have decided definitively I'm going to be watching week to week. It's coming back next month. We're already past almost a hiatus. It's hard to believe this much time has passed. But look how long it took me to get a podcast going again. So, there we are. I'm going to watch it week to week. I still have to do my episode 1154 rewind. Then I need to watch 1155 and do that rewind. By the time I get around to that, probably the new episode 1156 will be pretty close. So that's going to work out. But I'm definitely going to do that. But for now, it's at the bottom of the list because there's no new shit. So there we are. Mushi Tensei is number 8, only because I've only seen one episode. That one episode is excellent. So it's number 8. JoJo, number 7. Am I going to keep watching this? I intend to, but I told you about procrastinating. This storyline this season just hasn't grabbed me, man. Like, it just hasn't grabbed me the way the previous seasons have. I don't even remember what last happened. I'm going to have to go back and rewatch the last episode. But I'm getting way ahead on everything. So, I mean, we're at the 19th. I've already done all the movies. I'm way ahead on Black Clover. I'm decently ahead on Gintama. I'm ahead on all my Patreon exclusives. We're getting Apothecary Diaries every Monday. My Name is Earl every Wednesday. No, I'm sorry. Frieren is every Monday right now, and then Demon Slayer after that. My Name is Earl every Wednesday. Apothecary Diaries every Thursday. I do 1 movie a month, sometimes 2 movies a month. I'm ahead on all that shit. So I'm in a really good place where I'm running out of excuses about doing JoJo. So I'll probably get to it this weekend. We'll see. I'll tell you right now, if I don't get to it this weekend, I'm probably just going to drop it. Because it's just, I want to do it, but like when I get down to it, what am I going to record? Ooh, more Black Clover. Dude, what about JoJo? I just recorded 5 Black Clovers today. I could have done JoJo. That would be probably most of the rest of the season of JoJo. I just didn't want to. So hopefully I can get the motivation. I know people want me to see it, but the story hasn't gripped me, man. And here's the thing. This is how you know for a fact. I don't watch shit for the algorithm. I watch shit because I want to watch it. I enjoy it. If Gintama sucked, I wouldn't watch it. It's sponsored, by the way. I guess I would watch it because it's sponsored. But it sure as hell wouldn't be here on YouTube. Same with Black Clover. I watch shit because I enjoy it, man. And you know this for a fact. I'm never going to watch them just for the algorithm. So that's what it is. But it's number 7. It's still ahead of Mushi and One Piece. So, I guess that's the legacy of it all. Because so far, the legacy every other season has been excellent. This one just hasn't gripped me the way the previous seasons did. I'll be excited to watch the next season because it'll be new characters, new setting. I don't know if it's the setting or the characters, probably some of both. Just hasn't gripped me so far. I do like the mystery of the boy. What the hell's going on with the boy? See, now I'm starting to get a little interested. Wait a minute. I do want to know what happened to the boy. So maybe this will be enough to get me back in. A mystery is always a good way to hook me back into something. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll talk myself into it. We'll see. Demon Slayer is number 6. Boruto's number 5. Boruto just made a big move. I know none of you care about Boruto. It just made a big move. They swung for the fences, and I think they got the home run. They didn't foul off. So they got the home run. So, you know what? It works for me. So that's why that's number 5. Jujutsu Kaisen is number 4. This season so far has been the best season. I've seen all the way through episode 10 of season 3. I've only edited up through episode 4, but I've seen through episode 10. Very exciting. I'm really loving this season. There may only be 12 episodes. They keep listing as 12, so maybe it's just like a half season and they'll take a hiatus. I don't know. That's typically how they do things these days. These kids these days with their hiatuses is stupid, man. Stop it. But the number 4 is really good. Black Clover is number 3. Really excellent. I'm very much enjoying this show. It's my favorite show I've seen that I've started probably in the last couple of years. Gintama would be number 2. Just they're a little bit inconsistent with the Gintama is number 2. Gintama is actually above Black Clover. I'm saying I like Black Clover more. Does that make any sense? I guess Legacy. I've watched 150 of Gintama or more. No. More than that. Like 170? What am I up to? Looks like I'm up to 170. Yeah, I'm 155. What am I? 52. 152 on YouTube, but I've watched 170. So Legacy, I think, just I've seen more of it. I'm enjoying Black Clover more than Gintama, but Gintama's holding on to that number 2 spot because of the legacy, the affection I have for it as an overall franchise. I do think it's kind of slipped a little bit, but the one shots that I've seen recently have been as good as any they've ever had on the series. So the one shots are still excellent. And none of the story arcs have been like, Jesus Christ, will they end this? None of them have been painful. They just haven't been as good. There's a difference. And number 1, Apothecary Diaries. This is my favorite show right now. It's in my top 5 favorite shows of all time. They still have to stick to landing, obviously. Okay, how about this? It's number 1 of shows I haven't finished. And potentially in the top 5 of all shows I've ever watched. Because it is a great show. The characters are fantastic. They're going interesting places. I've got half a season left. And then season 3 is coming out like late this year. So it's going to be a long wait. So that's going to suck. And it'll probably drop. Just if I'm not watching, if it's in hiatus, if it's off season, it'll drop. Is effing... The hell is it even called? What was the one where they're going to Greenland and it's about the Vikings? What the hell was that called? Vinland Saga. Jesus. Is that shit ever coming back? What the hell is going on with that, man? Has it been canceled? What the hell's going on? And when are they going to do the goddamn dub for Love is War? Kaguya Love is War. They did a special that came out 3 effing months ago. Still haven't done the dub. I'm waiting for that. I'll be checking that shit every week. Believe that. Man, nothing moves slower than anime studios, specifically. Nothing moves slower than stupid-ass animation studios. Anyway, that's my current rankings. Apothecary Diaries holding on to the title for now. And Vinland Saga would shoot up if it ever effing comes back. Alrighty, well, after I post this on Early Access, I will do a poll for new topics. This will, now that I'm doing the podcast every week, probably the amount of time I spent on this one could have just been a mini pod at this point. But like I said, I'm putting less emphasis on the main topics, more emphasis on the corners. So you can put main topic ideas if you want to. I'm actually more interested in hearing what you have to say about what shows you want me to do a corner on. Maybe even corner specific topics. For instance, I've told you what I think about Yami as a leader. Maybe you want to hear what I think about Asta as a protagonist, or the Midnight Sun as antagonist. Or maybe in Gintama, you want to hear what I think about the individual characters. Shampaka, for instance. Who is my favorite character? Maybe you want me to rank them. For One Piece, maybe you want me to go into what I think of Nami's character arc, right? Career-long character arc, I guess we could say. Or whoever. Also, I'm going to be getting back into the live action. I'll talk about that here, too. So, I've seen the first... it's slow going. I finally edited the first episode of the live action. The second season is already out. I was hoping to finish season 1 before the second season came out. That's hopeless. That ain't going to happen. But at least I've done the first episode. I've recorded the second episode. I need to record more. I told you I have a lot of time coming up. I'll probably do that instead of watching JoJo, most likely. Alrighty, well, that's done. I guess I'll go ahead and get to the Q&A so I can finish this up. The Q&A probably twice as long as the main podcast. Who knows? Alrighty, here we go with the Q&A. Hopefully all the comments here have showed up. Been having a problem with that lately. If I ever miss one of your comments, I just don't read it or acknowledge it. Let me know, because sometimes it hides comments from me, which is very annoying. But hopefully you got everything. Alrighty, first one is Ruji. This is timestamp 10 minutes, 48 seconds. Gotta admit, sometimes I feel a bit guilty for always harping on asking when or if new Gintama is coming out. It's coming out. There's no if, unless I drop dead. Reactions are coming out. Always good to hear this, not coming off negatively. No, here's the thing. I am 100% feedback, interaction motivated. So if nobody gives a shit, people interact when they give a shit. If they don't give a shit, I'll just stop. For instance, you notice we're not doing the F-bomb contest anymore because nobody gave a shit. I love contests. I love participating in contests. I love doing contests. But I think people get tired of contests. They get tired, maybe just tired of doing them, maybe tired of not winning. But even the winners seem to get tired of it. So, I think it's just a contest fatigue. Most people just don't like it for whatever reason. So I stopped because people stopped giving guesses for when the F-bomb would come. I stopped the contest. Same thing with I've been doing movie marathon posts and anime marathon posts, and I'm not going to do those anymore. I'm still going to do the marathons because the marathons make me really productive. Like the pressure to do a certain amount within a I'm deadline motivated as well. Deadlines really help me get shit done. So the pressure of doing at least one anime episode every hour, it really has helped me drum up. It's how I'm getting ahead of things. It's really, really helped me a lot. I've enjoyed it very much. I enjoy the pressure, and the pressure makes me more productive. So I'm still going to do these marathons. I'm just not going to post about them anymore. I'm not going to run contests anymore. You won't know that they're happening, except you'll be like, why is he wearing the same shirt for 10 straight episodes? Well, it's because I did a marathon. Maybe now that I'm not doing contests, I'll do episodes or series specific marathons. So you'll literally see me wear the same shirt for 10 straight episodes. It's not that I never do laundry. It's just that it's the same day, right? But, the last time I did the anime marathon, only 2 people made a guess, but 4 people upvoted the post. 4 people upvoted the post, but only 2 people made predictions. So that proved to me is because I was wondering, are people just not seeing the post? If it's not getting promoted to them, people don't see the post. But twice as many people saw the post as made a prediction. That told me, okay, we're done. I'm not doing it anymore. Because I'm not mad. I'm not blaming anybody. If you don't give a shit, you can't control what you care about. You can't control what you care about, and I can't control what you care about, right? So if you don't care, I just won't bug you with it. That's why I deleted the post. Because why have this shit get promoted in your feed when you don't care, right? So, like I said, I'm still going to do the animation marathon. I'm still going to do the movie marathons. I just won't post about them anymore. But that makes the point of what I'm talking about here. If you don't say anything, I assume you don't care. People asking about when is JoJo coming back tells me you care, which makes me more motivated to do it. I want you to care. I don't want to do shit you don't care about. Nobody asked me when are you doing Bleach. So guess what? Bleach is never coming back. Ain't not a single person asked me about that shit. Nobody. You don't give a shit. So if you don't care, I don't care. So rather than, I guess some people get mad when you ask about shit, or maybe Neil talks like that was why he quit. Like there seemed to be an implication there. People are asking why are things late. People just mysteriously quit. Him, Ali Box. I don't know what the hell's happened with Domi, whatever her name is. Like she's always been weird with her release schedule. And I guess she's just stopped doing Buffy. I don't know what's happened there. But I think some of these people are bothered. It's a Primate's another one. Are bothered by the assumed negativity of when is this shit coming out. When is my shit coming out? It's never going to bother me. It shows me you give a shit. You know who cares the most is Alice. Alice is one of my patrons. You'll see the patrons. You'll see the comments every now and then from Alice on various things. Alice cares, which means I care. So guess who gets a priority? Alice, because Alice cares. If you care, I care. I want people to care. So people, I want you to care. You asking when is your shit coming out tells me you care, which makes me care, which makes me put it out faster. So I know I'm repeating myself, so I'm going to move on. But if you care, I care. That's basically is my premise. It motivates me, and it basically can answer most of the questions you wonder about. Why did he do this or why did you do that? If I don't think you give a shit, that's why I didn't do something. Or that's why I deleted something. If I think you give a shit, that's why I put in extra time and made sure your thing come out. So that's what it is. Moving on to Hunterstone. The next few comments are going to be from Hunterstone. I actually saw that notification of your death video. I saw it that morning, clicked on it, and there was no video, and then I remembered what day it was. You put it all together, man. And that it might be your death video, and you must have forgot to delay it. Yep. Dumbass. I'm still bitter, but I forgot that because it was a good video, man. I wanted more people to see it. It really sucks that it had to happen to you, but I get it. I couldn't imagine what it's like to see the video almost every day. But it would have been nice to see that video for your loyal viewers. Well, at least now, people will know if I just stop posting, I'm dead. That's the only way that's ever going to happen. There will be... Now, I am the kind of person... I don't believe in goodbye, like posting on Reddit. Goodbye forever, Reddit. You have pissed me off for the last time. I'm out. And we used to have message boards. People do dramatic posts. I'm leaving forever. And most of the times they would come back. But there's a dramatic I'm leaving forever attention horror ass post. But this feels deeper than that. I generally don't like the attention horror I'm leaving shit. I probably would just do it as a post for that reason. But I'm going to say something somewhere where people can see it so that you know what happened. Because I hate that I don't know what happened. It's a Primate Alley box. I'm starting to forget the names of the other people. It's been 3 or 4 years. Some of these channels have disappeared 3 or 4 years ago. But Neil talks. You know, he briefly came back for the first season of Fallout, I think, or something like that. But and then left again, which is too bad. I really like. He was one of my favorite reaction channels, if not my favorite of all time. But I think he was just doing too much. But anyway, yeah, something will come out, and if nothing does come out, if I just stop posting, and nothing comes out, I'm either in the hospital. Why do I have these on? Or I'm dead. It's that simple. Like, I'm in the hospital or I'm dead. Or kidnapped or whatever. So, you know that. So, you don't need the video to know that. You know that now, if you're watching this. And the people who care the most would be watching this. So, there we are, right? Like, so the people who matter, the people that something like this is important to, are going to know. So, there we go. I'm on Reddit too much. Same. Definitely on Reddit too much. And I was on Reddit, and I forced you to be on Reddit today, earlier in this podcast. So, hey, you know, Reddit brain. All right. You still, Hunter? You're joking when you say Minyata creepy purple hero has a monologue, right? At least I got a warning. Now, there's AI sponsored suggested comments, replies to this. Oh no, I wish I was. He definitely has a moment. We didn't say a moment, you stupid computer. We said a monologue. There's a difference between a moment and a monologue. You're a stupid computer. The other suggestion. You'll see what I mean when you get there. Wow, what a generic ass comment. F you. I'm not using either one of those. I really hate the AI suggested comments. But I do find it funny when they seem to dislike somebody personally. Typically they like Ariel, and typically they hate Alice. This happened several times with some of Alice's comments. It really does like Alice for some reason. I don't know why. But it even got shitty with Ariel last time. I talked about it. I think I either made a post about it or I talked about it somewhere. It even got shitty with her. So there's no holds barred, man. Glad someone can defend Usopp when I'm failing to. Yeah, when I'm falling to. Never thought about Continual Rise's comment on Usopp, but 100% believe that's what's happening. Yeah, I think it's just a level of adversary. Yeah, I think that was a really good comment. And, you know, we see people against who we see them against, right? He would dominate, man. If he went back to some of these, even Erlong, whatever the hell his name was, the first really strong person who had a crew with him that we faced back in episode 20 or whatever the hell it was, he would clown that sumbitch. He would stomp him out and his whole crew. I'm not talking about them now. Is Erlong dead, by the way? Or is he in prison somewhere? Well, I don't think we've heard anything about that somebody. He may have died. I don't remember. But if we took them now, they would level up. Like Crocodile was stronger than he was back then. But they would level up. But if we take Usopp now and put him back to Erlong then, he would clown them all. He would school them. He would sun them. So that just shows the power level difference, right? Like, we have evolved. Last one for now from Hunter Stone. My Big Mom fan cast is Alex Borstein. Who the hell is that? She has a look. She's 55, so she can handle when in 10 years from now, when they actually get to that part of the story, she still wouldn't be too old. She does a lot of voiceover, it looks like. A lot of voiceover. Mostly voiceover. So I don't know how good she is with film acting. Probably 90% of my searches, if somebody's looked at my search history, would be actors, TV tropes of various movies I've just watched or TV shows I've finished, and then just TV shows and movies in general, and more actors. I'm constantly searching people, see what the hell they did. All right, this one from Leon, who they got the little marker where you can tell how long they've been subscribed. People get different buttons. I don't know if you guys see those. I see them, but maybe they're just for me. But for instance, Hunter Stone has a top commenter button, received one of the highest number of hearts from you. And I just heart people, let them know that, you know. But he leaves more comments so he gets more hearts. Leon has one that says he's been a subscriber for 5 years. So that's pretty awesome. And most people, maybe a lot of people don't let people know how long they've been a subscriber for because it actually says this. Always allows everyone to see the subscriptions. So I don't know why you'd want to hide that, but it seems like a lot of people do. I cared too much. Here's the weird thing about Leon. He doesn't like anime. One of the most, he said other things to me about like Night of the Seven Kingdoms, but before that, the most recent thing he had said to me was that I'm doing too much anime. I'm not doing enough live action. He's into like Sopranos. Based on his recommendation, I've never watched the Sopranos prequel movie. He said it was trash. I was gonna watch it. I was fully prepped in. I had already downloaded it. I was gonna react to it. He said, Mr. Biggest Sopranos fan ever, said it was trash. I still have never watched it. So one day I want to see it. Now I'll probably just hate watch it. With the presumption it sucks. Maybe I'll like it. I don't know. But one of the biggest Sopranos fans I've ever met said, another big Sopranos fan, Bill Belichick's butt boy. What the hell is his name? Lombardi? Mike Lombardi? I think is his name. He is a huge Sopranos fan. I used to listen to his podcast before his narcissism just was too much. He was a massive Sopranos fan. Always talking about Sopranos. He also said the prequel was trash. Big time Sopranos fans hate the prequel, even though Gandolfini's son was playing the character, which I think is perfect casting. Obviously, perfect casting. That writing and it was written by the same guy, right? I don't know why it was trash. Apparently it's trash, but this ain't a Sopranos podcast. Anyway, I'm not sure why an anime hater is listening to an anime podcast. Anyway, Hunter Stone again. This was the most I will never forgive you feeling I will never forgive you podcast. Yes, I was salty. I was salty about several things. I'm still salty, but not quite as salty, I guess. But yes, the interim episode, because we had the regular season, then we had the between season special, like anime sometimes does, the between season special, and then we get to start a new season. That between season special was pretty goddamn salty. Ariel. Next few of these are going to be from Ariel. I'm kind of the same with being addicted to reactions and constantly finding new channels. Every so often I go through my subscriptions and drop them if I'm not really watching them anymore or don't seem to be actively dropping videos. Yeah, exactly. Same. I should probably comb through my subscription tab soon and do a purge. The thing is, like, if I don't care what my subscription number is, it used to matter, like on Twitter, how many people you followed. Well, I think it was how many people followed you determined how many people you could follow. Because some people would follow like 10,000 people, but they would only have 100 followers. So they had a limit. There was a ratio. You couldn't go past the ratio. So if you're following people who aren't posting anymore, you would drop them so you could follow new people who are posting. That was the thing, right? But with YouTube, I don't think it matters how many people you have subscriptions to. If they're not dropping videos, it doesn't matter, right? You're subscribed to them, but they're not dropping videos. So it's probably more of a thing if I drop them, maybe they'll catch their attention. Hey, you're losing a lot of subscribers. Maybe you should post something, asshole. So maybe it's like, it has a punitive effect. But I don't think it matters if you're following them or not if they're not dropping videos. Now, if they're dropping videos that are annoying, they get promoted to you, then that's a good reason to drop them. Let's look at the AI suggestions. It's always good to purge the channels that don't match your vibe anymore. What the hell did she say that would prompt that response? She didn't say anything about vibe, did she? Oh, well, okay. Drop those I'm not really watching anymore. I guess you could insinuate vibe from that. Maybe. Stupid computer. That's a good way to keep your feed fresh. Shut up. It has a AI... I'm not going to read them all. Literally, every single one of her comments has AI suggestions. The AI has a weird relationship with her. I don't understand. They're not doing it to 100 stones, so it's not about volume of comments. So I don't know what it is. Maybe they start alphabetically. A comes before H. It's possible. On the topic of My Hero, one of my favorite creators recently dropped a short video on All Might you could check out if you're interested. It's titled All Might, A Broken Paragon from creator Gallenberger1. It's less than 15 minutes long, so quick watch. He's one of my favorite for video essays character analysis. I still occasionally rewatch some deep dive videos he's done on a few Black Clover characters. Oh, let me check him out. The misunderstood greatness of Sanandu. Those are the crazy chicks, right? Not just chicks, crazy dudes too. I used to know how to pronounce this, and by used to I mean like a week ago, but I don't remember how to pronounce it anymore. The women who revolutionized shonen, the unexpected genius of Kenpachi Zaruka. Thanks for the memories, my hero. No one understands Deku. All Might of Broken Paragon. Okay, so I'll save that one. The villain who killed Dragon Ball Z. Shit. I'm looking for shit I've already seen. They got a lot of My Hero stuff here. Alright, so yeah, he looks like a pretty good channel. I'll check him out later. No way to know, though. See, here I am being seduced by video titles and thumbnails. Just like I always criticize other people for doing. But no, it also came with a recommendation. So. Damn, man. I told you I'm not going to read you these. Here's what the computer said. I don't think I'm going to watch any more My Hero content for a while because I'm ... I need to know what the rest of what you're going to say is. What the hell? Oh, okay. Jesus. Holy shit. Okay, I get it. I don't think I'm going to watch any more My Hero content for a while because I'm going to jump in blind. I thought I said jump in bed. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about jump in bed? Moron. Jump in blind. Okay, that makes more sense. Still a stupid comment. I think my next stop in My Hero is to continue the story. I don't think I'll be watching any companion videos for the time being. See, both of these are saying I'm not going to watch the shit you suggested when I am going to watch it. That tells you computers are stupid. F computers and F AI. That's how I feel about this. Quit leaving me your suggested ass comments. Is there a thing that, like, is this? Learn more about this feature. Something wrong. Yes, there's something wrong. Stop giving me these stupid suggestions. That's what's wrong. Anyway. Jesus Christ. Continue to Rise gets 2 of those buttons, by the way. Top commenter, highest number of hearts, as well as has been publicly subscribed for 3 years. Where Ariel's got the top commenter button. Okay. Anyway, I'm really getting sidetracked today. Let's focus on the comments. I'm going to lock the hell in now. Okay, Continual Rise gets the next couple of comments here. I didn't get a chance to see your video, and it was a nice video. Oh, I did get a chance to see your video, the death video. I did get a chance to see your video, and it was a nice video. Something nice for you fans instead of leaving them hanging like others have done, as you said. Saying that, though, I don't blame you for not wanting to see it anymore. I do find it funny that you weren't more interested in the comments. I just think that it's not my place to read what people would say to me after I'm dead. It's not my place to know what people are going to say at my funeral. I think there's something grisly about that. And maybe that was colored by the fact that the first comment I saw was a shitty comment. I didn't see who left it. I just saw the comment, and as soon as I saw the comment, I first of all, it made me realize what the hell had just happened. There's only one video that could have been for it, and I realized what day it was. Jumped out of bed, came over and deleted it real quick. I did see there was like 2 or 3 comments, and some of the comments had a bunch of replies. Like one of them had like 5 replies or something. So that's all I saw. I didn't see who left any comments. I didn't see the content of any comments except for that first one. And if it had been something else, maybe I'd have been tempted, but it feels like reading somebody else's diary. I don't know if I can explain this in a way that would make sense for anybody. It just feels grisly. It feels wrong. It feels like looking through a panty drawer or looking at somebody's diary or reading their email behind their back or something. I mean, like, and I know none of that applies. There are public comments about me, to me, but I just don't think eavesdropping is a good thing, right? Like, I've always been anti-eavesdropping. I've always felt like if you eavesdrop, you're going to hear what people really think about you, and it's none of your business, good, bad, or indifferent, what people think about you. And typically it's going to hurt your feelings. Now, there is something I did when I was much younger. I was a moderator on a pretty popular for the time, you would have never heard of it, but it was a pretty popular for the time message board. And I was an active member of the message board for like 10 years. Eventually I became a moderator, and the moderators had a private message board just for other moderators. The moderators, and a lot of it was talking shit about people behind their back. Oh, you know, this guy, he's being an asshole in my thing. Oh, yeah, he's an asshole in my, because we were moderators of different topics. I was a moderator of books. I talked about books and moderated the comments. I suggest, and one of the moderator's job is to drive traffic to your sub. I guess I'd call it subforum. I think they were called subforums because you had the main forum and then there was a bunch of subforums. And you wanted to have a popular subforum. So I would do posts every day or two, do a post that would drive comments and commentary, and so I was pretty good at that. I enjoyed it, Then I got into film. Once I got into filmmaking, all this went by the wayside. I was just too busy for anything at that point. Back then, though, I was just doing architectural, AutoCAD freelance work. Do you need plans for a garage? Come to me, pay me, and then I'll design your garage for you. It'll be the code and everything. So I had a lot of free time back then. So I was a moderator, and then eventually I stepped down, stopped being a mod, and just became a regular participant again. But when I stepped down, they took away my mod status, but they forgot to take away my access to the private shit-talking subforum just for mods. And because I still had access, I was curious what people would say about me and what they were saying about other people. Like, there'd be some drama in this forum, and I'd be like, what are people saying about that? But you could go stuff, because what would happen in the submod, it would tell you who's there right now. So if I'm in the book submod, it would say, I'm here, saucy girl, book boy, book man, and book twin, or whatever. Those people are in that subforum right now. It tells you who's there. And it lasts, if you go in there, your name will be there for about 20 minutes before it finally disappears. You could be there for 2 minutes, your name will be there for 20 minutes. So there's a problem. If I go to the private forum, somebody's going to see my name, realize I still have access even though I'm not supposed to. So I would go in stealth. You can stealth it where it won't say that you're there so I would go into stealth mode and go into that subforum to read. The problem is administrators, and there was 5 administrators, can see through the stealth. They can see through your invisibility cloak. So if one of them is online, they're going to see I'm there even though nobody else can see I'm there. So what I would have to do is I would go at a random time, 2 o'clock in the morning. Most people are not there. It's very interactive at that particular point. Now, some of these people, it's online, it's the internet, they could have been around the world, they could be awake when we're asleep, but 2 o'clock seemed to always be when nobody's there. So I'd go in at 2 o'clock, have my invisibility cloak on. It would take an administrator to see me. Sneak in there, look at what people are saying about me. And usually about some other drama as well, but mostly about me. Remember, I was very young and stupid. Did this for about 3 months. And there's this one guy that I'd always been friendly with that apparently hated my guts behind my back. I'd always been friendly with him. I'd always liked him. I liked his girlfriend. She posted there too. We'd even talked about doing a meetup, catching some drinks. And then I saw the shit he was saying about me behind my back, and it soured everything. It basically soured my entire experience on the board. I had been internet friends with this guy for years. And it's just, he apparently had never liked me. And he even talked about it. He had never liked me. He always would pretend to like me to my face and never liked me behind my back. And it just went up my ass. And it really soured everything. And eventually it was one of the reasons why I just stopped going to this. And of course, message boards were dying out. Social media was starting to become a thing. MySpace was around. Facebook was starting. Twitter would start a couple years later. And then we'd move on from there and just Reddit. And, message boards pretty much don't exist anymore for the most part. Mostly technical sites these days. But it just went up my ass. And then I really started being nasty with him. And then he took the gloves off. He started being nasty with me back when we would interact. At first he tried to, hey man, we've always been cool. What are you talking about? And I just wouldn't even engage with that because I knew where he was coming from, And eventually he figured out I had to have seen what he said. And then I eventually got blocked access, right? So they eventually took, oh, wait a minute, he's still allowed in here. I didn't realize that. And they toggled it off and I wasn't allowed in anymore. But for a while, so the whole lesson in all this is, it was none of my business what anybody was saying about me behind my back. Why did I ever care? Why did I seek that out? It didn't improve anything. It didn't change anything. My belief is, if somebody isn't going to say anything to your face, who gives a shit what they think about you behind their back? It doesn't matter. I don't care anymore. I used to care. And it's proved to me it didn't matter. I could have had another fun 5 years talking to this dude and never known anything was wrong because he was gutless and couldn't say anything to my face or be nasty to me to my face until I started being nasty to him. So it's the age-old question. If you spend 20 years with somebody as a lover or something, and they hate your guts, but they never do anything against you in front of you or behind your back, They're never mean to you. They never abuse you. They never do anything wrong. They pretend to love you, and you spend 20 years, and then you die, and you had a great life with this person. Doesn't matter if they hated you in their head. Doesn't matter if they never did a single thing. I'm talking about a single thing ever. Even if you would have never found out that they hurt you. Like, they make your car keys go missing and it gave you a bad day. They never do anything wrong. Ever. Doesn't matter that they hate you. I've written a story about that one time. I don't think it does. I think it doesn't matter what you think. It matters what you do. It matters what you say. Who gives a shit what you think if you're not going to say anything to the person? If you're not going to do anything actively against them. Now, if they're a bad actor, they're pretending to your face, but then they're sabotaging you behind your back, it matters. You need to know that. But you'll eventually find out anyway because they're working against you. It'll come out in the wash. It always does. Nothing stays secret forever. So, as long as he had never said anything, and he never would have, I could have had another fun 4 or 5 years on that site and been much happier because I was miserable. It really hurt my feelings, and then I became an asshole, and a bunch of people stopped liking me because of the way I was acting, because it seemed to come out of nowhere. And it didn't help anything, and it wasn't good for anybody. And after much reflection on that, I realized I should have never given a shit, and I will never give a shit again. It doesn't matter what people think behind your back. And I've also have a policy since then, and this just became because I was a leader for years, and I learned leadership from Dad, and he told me this, but I didn't really internalize it until this shit happened with this message board. I have a hard and fast rule. I never shit talk people behind their back. Just in general, in life, ever. In any format. So I'm not, like for instance, on Patreon, I will never shit talk one Patreon member to another Patreon member behind their back. I'm not going to entertain that. But that's not just Patreon. It's also in real life. Like if there's an actor who's being a dickhead. Now, if somebody's affecting production, obviously you have to have a meeting with the director, the assistant director, the other producers, maybe even another actor. What is happening? What's going on? Okay, I don't like this. This is not good. But then you know what I do? I go to that actor and I talk to them. Okay, here's what people are saying. Here's what's going on. You need to change. So that's not talking behind their back because I'm going to go to them and say something, right? You need to gather the information first. So that's the thing. So if I thought somebody sucked, I would just not hire them again. Like it sucked at acting or sucked at their job. But I'm not going to be out here, hey, DP, that cameraman sucks ass, don't he? Now, the DP may come to me, hey, well, he really sucks. I don't think you should hire him again. I'm like, all right, cool. But I'm not going to entertain the gossipy, shit-talking, snarky shit. You know what I'm talking about, right? Like, there's functional conversations, and then there is the snarky, gossipy, shit-talking shit. And I think it's bad for morale. Because here's what happens. If you're talking to the DP about that dude sucks. Oh, by the way, those shoes he brings in, they're too big for his feet. And, the pants are just hanging off him. He needs a belt. And, he kind of stinks sometimes. Guess what? The DP is going to wonder what I'm saying behind his back to everybody else. It never plays out, man. Like, it doesn't work. It's bad for morale. If you're a leader, you can't do that. Now, if you're cameraman number 2, you can talk all the shit you want to. Personally, I probably still wouldn't. But I'm talking about a leadership position. If you're in a leadership position, you cannot engage in that shit. So it's kind of all the same thing, right? Like what I'm saying is, it's none of my business what people think about me behind my back. If they don't have the guts to say it to my face, I don't give a shit. I don't care. And likewise, I'm not going to say shit about other people. So that it's a level playing field. I'll think whatever the hell I want. Thoughts will come to my head. Oh man, I'm thinking this. Oh yeah. I'm thinking some shit, but it's not coming out of my mouth or my fingertips. It stays where it belongs. Because it's none of your business what I think about you, and it's none of my business what you think about me. That's my life philosophy. It may not be anybody else's philosophy. Human beings love gossip. We will never get rid of gossip. People are always going to shit talk. And I actually think shit talk is healthy. I think it's healthy if you are a leader and you're leading people and your people are shit talking you. Wow, I don't like that you cut back rations, man. That's healthy because here's what happens. If you don't let them shit talk, they're going to get out their anger some other way. Like they're going to start stealing food. I would much rather they shit talk about the rations than steal food, in a survival situation, right? My judge on psychology, sociology specifically with groups of people, you have to let them talk shit. You have to let them talk shit because if you're the boss and they're the people, if they talk shit, that's how they get out their anger. And then the anger will dissipate and fade and we can all move on. If you don't let them shit talk, that's why suppressing speech never works with governments. The more you suppress the speech, the more they start blowing up buildings because you won't let them shit talk. Let them shit talk. It'll die right there at the shit talk level. If you don't let them shit talk, it'll keep building up until they take action that's much worse than them just talking shit. That's my personal leadership philosophy. Every now and then come back to, oh, they said this shit, you worked too long yesterday. I'm like, okay, thanks for telling me, and then do nothing about it. Because they were shit talking, but they didn't show up late the next day because they were allowed to shit talk. If I hadn't let them shit talk about being late, about the late hours, maybe they show up late. Maybe that's how they protest. So my philosophy has always been let them talk shit, and it's none of your business what other people think. So that's my long, convoluted, probably doesn't make sense rationale for not looking at the comments. It's none of my business. I want you to know you will be missed. All caps. Hopefully not anytime soon. Well, I appreciate that. So if I had read the comments, I would have known I would be missed. Okay, well, still none of my business. Not just by me, but others, I'm sure, even if I have no right to speak for others, I can't imagine anyone spending their time and money watching you if they didn't care. Your community seems to come out for you on Patreon, YouTube posts, and these podcasts, and often these podcasts get more views and comments than your reactions. So I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that will miss you. Please take care. I appreciate that, man. And I talked in one of the mini pods recently, or was it the last big podcast? Somewhere. No, it was the last big podcast. Because I was talking about earnestness, being sincere, being less of a cynical asshole. If I was a cynical asshole, I'd make jokes here. But your earnestness will be returned in kind. I actually do appreciate it. I do care about people. And I appreciate the level of care, whatever it is, that anybody has for me. And I resist the idea, like I will never use the word fan. Oh, my fans. Look, I have one fan and it's over there and it's plugged into the wall. So I don't believe in the whole fan thing. I will say I'm a fan of the normies. I'm not a fan of the normies. I'm not like dressing up in normie shirts. I'm not, if they showed up in town and wanted to do a meetup, I would definitely go out because I wouldn't mind hanging out with them. I'd love to do a crossover with them. I'd love to do a combined reaction with them. Fan is a loaded word. It stands short for fanatic, right? So I just don't think it's a good word to use in these circumstances with small creators. I am a Spider-Man fan, I guess. But am I? Because I'm not reading the comic books. The trailer dropped. I haven't watched it yet. So I think the fan is a loaded word. You'll see me avoid this word. I will never describe anybody who follows my channel as a fan. Subscribers is probably a good way to do it. Viewers is typically the word I use internally and externally. Fan is a loaded word. I think you're kind of putting yourself on a pedestal at that point. I think we're all on the same level here. I happen to have the platform. I can moderate, like if somebody has a hateful comment. I typically don't try to moderate anything. I happen to be the one holding the mic. But that doesn't mean I'm better than anybody else. And I feel like some of these people start talking about their fans and they start talking about, oh, I'm adored. They start putting themselves on a pedestal. And the last thing I need is more ego. Like, I don't need any more ego. I'm like Asta in Black Clover. His ego is just fine where it is. He does not need an inflated ego. There's another anime character I'm thinking of who really doesn't need an inflated ego. There's some egomaniacs out there, man. So I try to moderate it. And sometimes if I seem a little besmirching of people caring about me, it's just, that's where I'm coming from. I'm just trying to keep my ego in check. Because I have a tiny channel, but if I had a huge channel, I would say the same thing. I'll say the same thing. I'm going to be the same person. Because that's just how I roll, right? So, but yeah, I appreciate your earnestness, and I hope I've returned it in kind. I'm not going to be a cynical asshole and make a joke here. Let's see. There are some... The AI suggested we will always find a way to connect. That's what we do. Shut the hell up. You're a robot. You ain't connecting with shit. Like Ruji said, I'm glad you didn't take these comments negatively. I also feel guilty bad, especially because I know I tend to leave long-ass comments, and YouTube really isn't the place for that. Leave as long as you want. I just can't read the really long ones. These podcasts are already long enough. But leave them as long as you want. I do read them. I read every comment. Other reason I didn't ask for updates on One Piece is because I know you consumed a lot of One Piece in a short amount of time and got burned out. And I'd rather you watch it when you feel like it rather than be forced. I'm glad to see it updated on Patreon, though. I'm hyped for season 2. That recent trailer, I bet you've seen season 2 by now, is the best looking one so far. I'm not looking forward to the Chopper episodes. This is me, by the way. Oh, God, that was scary. I don't think live action Chopper is gonna work for me. Live action. We'll see. I don't think it's gonna work. I don't know how else you do it though. You can't do it practically, right? So I don't know what you do. You know what you probably do? Just do an animation. Just literally take him from the anime and stick him in the live action. They did that with Who Framed Roger Rabbit 35 years ago. That's what I would do. Rather than CGI, I would just keep him anime. They should have done that. They literally should have done that. Then they couldn't call themselves live action, so that's probably why they didn't. I would have done that. I don't think this is going to work. A little worried because the season would need a bigger budget because it's entering the Grand Line, more Devil Fruit Powers, Chopper, but I'm almost certain they nailed it. Speaking of long ones that are too long for me to read, there's one comment here about Usopp. Remember, this is episode 19. This is the in-between episode. Usopp definitely was confident after the time skip when they reunited, even talking smack. Even at F My Life, he had confidence showing off his new skills versus lower tier fishmen. He would definitely solo Arlong, that's his name. I kept wanting to put it Oolong. It's Arlong. He would definitely solo Arlong and his crew. I know it's a pain in reality because it's been years since he's done anything or had any major upgrades since Dressrosa, but it's only been a month or so in their time since they're reunited, which is crazy how much they've done since coming back together. They didn't even move that fast pre-time skip. At least that was some months. Yeah, this is a very interesting comment. You definitely need to check all this out. Chopper movie was a remake of his arc, but it's kind of like an alternate version because instead of picking up Chopper after Little Garden with Vivi, they somehow already got Frankie and Robin in the crew and then finally needed a doctor. What the hell? How the hell? So what did they do during that arc? Did you say it's a remake of his arc? Did they have to find things for them to do? They just shifted things around to make it more cool and dramatic, but the main story beats are the same. Fantastic pacing and better fight, though, which is why as a standalone experience, as much as I love the original, I do slightly lean towards the movie. More consumable as a yearly seasonal rewatch. I should do some One Piece movies, actually. Since I'm going to have more time this month. I'm getting shit done faster. Maybe I can probably fit in a movie or two. That's what I'm going to do, I think. Shit has me blubbering. Favorite arc from Preference, Water 7 Saga, Thriller Bark, Whole Cake. Dressrosa, Wano, and Sabodi also rank high to me. You need to make an arc tier list at some point. It would just be so arbitrary. It'd be what I felt that day, right? But that sounds like a pretty good list, right? That's a decent-ass list. Especially because, not going to lie, the arcs you listed so far would be considered hot takes for a lot of fans. Thriller Bark and Punk Hazard are hated by some. I agree with you on Thriller Bark, though. Straight fire. Yeah, I mean, are there any bad arcs? Have we talked about that? Or is there a bad arc in One Piece? I don't think there is. People think Punk Hazard is or Thriller Bark is, but you're wrong. Is there a bad arc? Not off the top of my head. Even a couple of the filler arcs are good. The one where they land in the middle of the Navy base, the Marine base, that was really good. That was a filler arc. So, I think even a filler can be good. Would also consume any One Piece character, power, fights, and villain tier list you made. Those might be more doable. The arc is just so random, right? But powers and villains would be two things I think I'd be very interested in doing a tier list of. Heck, I would even be interested in what locations you like the most in the world. Well, Skypiea is probably the top, right? Whole Cake Island is very interesting. Dressrosa was interesting until it was completely and totally destroyed. Water 7 was a great location. He's really good at the locations, right? The Water 7, it basically probably was based on Venice, wasn't it? But I love all the canals and all that stuff and the way the whole thing was set up. It also got trashed. I know they're rebuilding it, but it got pretty trashed. Wouldn't be a fun place to visit right now, probably. I know you list the things you enjoy watching at the moment, but I would watch a video of you listing everything you've watched or read in your entire life. Well, Letterboxd. I have a Letterboxd account. It's also Shadow Dog Prod. Go over to Letterboxd, look that up. You can see the movies. I'm slowly filling that out. It's going to take years probably, but for the moment, I'm slowly filling it out. Some other channels do it, and it's always fun to see where they rank what and for what particular reason. One Piece episode of Chopper Bloom in the winter. Miracle Sakura is what the movie is called. What the hell? That whole thing? Oh, One Piece. Why did I read that as One Piece? I thought you were talking about One Piece, the series, right? One Piece episode of Chopper Bloom in the winter. Miracle Sakura. You've got to be shitting me. That is a long ass name. That is a dumb name too. It's about 110 minutes long and is much more streamlined with better graphics than the original 330 minutes in the anime. I'm going to check that out. Matter of fact, let me take a break here. I'm going to put it on my watch list over on my streaming place. All right, we'll still go with Continual Rise. You make a great point about retirement homes and PlayStations. This is going to be wild. More and more technology is going to be going in these retirement homes as these old-ass people need the kind of technology they're accustomed to. But that actually reminds me of a One Piece survey they did last year. Apparently, the average age of a One Piece fan in Japan is 38 years old, which makes sense. Most probably grew up within the past 28 years. Funnily enough, it actually has a slightly higher female demographic for being a story written for males. Well, I think they treat women with dignity in this series. So, I don't know that there's many anime I've seen that don't, but like and they do have fan service. But there's a lot of anime with the fan service just outrageous, just ridiculous. But also, like, I think, you have women who are just professional victims on One Piece, but you also have a lot of women who stand up for themselves, a lot of women who fight back. They don't always win, but they fight. You have a lot of female villains. I think women like seeing female villains. Some shows veer away from that. So I think there's something for everyone in this series. So I think anybody can get something out of it, right? Also got to tell you, you nailed it with this. There already is a series like the one you described called Kaiju Number 8. It's about a 30-year-old who failed to achieve his dream. There are definitely other shows, manga with older protagonists, and there should be, by the way. And I can definitely see us skewing more in that direction over time, like you said. Older folk do tend to have more money. They should, man. I think we're at a point, see, people who were 38 back in 98 didn't grow up with anime in the way that we did, right? So they wouldn't enjoy it when they're 38. But people who are 38 now grew up with anime, so, it's been normalized. There used to be, I remember in 1989, Simpsons came out, I had this argument with this dude. I was staying at, I was kind of on the road at that point. And a lot of times I would spend a few nights at a hostel or spend a few nights at a homeless shelter or something like that. I was kind of, teenage years were a little rough. I ran away from home a couple times. And I remember specifically The Simpsons was in its first season. And we had a common room TV at this shelter I was at, right? And so there's one TV and people could sit there and watch it or they could choose not to sit there and watch it, whatever. But it was some entertainment before we go back to our room. We shared with like 4 people. But this guy didn't want us to watch The Simpsons. He said, animation is for kids. Or actually thinks like cartoons. He said, cartoons are for kids. Like, this is an adult show. And it's an age-old argument. I always say this shuts people down. If you wouldn't let people watch Heavy Metal, the movie, then animation is not automatically for children. Cartoons are not automatically for children. If you won't let them watch Heavy Metal. And you wouldn't. Any reasonable parent, rational parent, would not let their kids watch Heavy Metal. For goddamn sure. This is not a thing that would happen. So it's not for kids. But meanwhile, some live action is not for adults. Like, you wouldn't watch Bunked or Good Luck Charlie or any of these Nickelodeon trash shows that are out there, right? Those are not for adults. So live action isn't automatically for adults and cartoons are not automatically for children. But I think we've gotten beyond that. Nobody thinks that way now. No 38-year-old, like he was probably 38, 30 back then. 30-year-olds in 1989 thought cartoons were children. There was no talking about it. I had a long argument with this dude. We almost went to blows, right? Nobody that age now, a 38-year-old now, doesn't think that. They grew up with this shit. They know it's more adult, and specifically anime. I think anime has also helped change the conversation because it's never been other than Avatar: Last Airbender, which doesn't qualify as anime. It's not for kids. It's not young kids. We're not out here watching shit for 9-year-olds. Maybe the shit I watch is designed for 12 to 15, 16, but that's old enough for me. It's not immature, in that way. So it's just better, right? So yeah, I think the old folks' homes and this trend is just benefits everybody. Get rid of the stink of cartoons, and we can just enjoy good stories because that's I said this recently in a Reddit thread as well. Animation is a medium. It is not a genre. It's not a genre. It's not a kind of story. It's a way of telling the story. So, and finally, from continual rise, hopefully the JoJo numbers go up with the new season. It's supposed to be one of the best arcs in the manga. I know the more recent anime like Jujutsu Kaisen, My Hero, Demon Slayer, Frieren, Apothecary are pretty popular. Why don't you just post some of your Patreon titles as a sampler, like the first season or two, just to see if you can attract more attention to your channel, Patreon. Mainly because one of the promises I kind of make, this is kind of an unstated promise. I think I used to put this on my front page. I don't know if it's there anymore. I probably need to revise the front page anyway. So I'll take a look at it soon. It's kind of like, some people, I've noticed, some other reaction channels, will put shit on their Patreon, and eventually that shit will come to, YouTube. Kind of a promise I made early on, a goal of mine was, if it's on Patreon, it stays on Patreon. Like, it'll never be released to the public. So that, in other words, you're paying for something that you can't get and will never get any other way. So it feels like you're spending your money wisely. Like, it's, if you could just wait and get something, then you could just wait and get something. So if you spend your $5, or hell, the animation is $1, and you could have a free trial for a week, you can go to my Patreon right now, sign up for a week, and watch so much anime that week you'd be stuffed and would never need any more anime reaction from me ever, and then leave before ever paying a single penny. Or you can pay $1, get access to a shit ton of anime. So you can do that, right? But that dollar pretty much guarantees that you're getting shit you will never have gotten without that dollar or the free trial, right? Or the $3 tier, the $5 tier. Those are for the exclusive content. Then beyond that, you can get early access at 8, 15. You can make me watch shit, and 35, you can really make me watch shit, right? So we go up from there, right? But the first 3 tiers are for the ability to watch shit that will never hit YouTube or any other public forum. And so that's kind of their promise. It's kind of an implied promise. That's probably why I'll never do it. But then I am hitting this. I talked about how I wanted to get more money so I could get the 7 terabyte tier of Vimeo, and that can hold me up for another couple years without having to delete shit. I'm eventually going to have to delete shit. So I'm going to have to take something like Samurai Champloo, re-edit it for YouTube and put it on YouTube, because I'm going to have to delete it from a Vimeo because I'm running out of space. I've got basically enough space on my Vimeo for 10 to 15 more weeks of posts. Maybe 20 weeks of posts, because I post about 10 gigs a week, and I've got like 200 gigs left approximately out of 4 terabytes. Each terabyte's like 1,000 gig, I think, something like that. So I'm down. I've used up 3.8 terabytes. So I think that leaves me 200 gig, and I post about 10 gig a week. But I'm past the 2.8. So, I'm coming up against. I'm gonna run out of movies to delete, and then I'm gonna be trapped with. I'm gonna have to take out a series. So I'm looking back at some of the series I first did that nobody gives a shit about it anymore. Samurai Champloo is probably one of them. I don't want to do it because I feel like it should be, if you're paying $5, you should get exclusivity, right? Or the $1 for Apothecary Diaries, like we're talking about. I know it's just $1. I just think that that's the kind of promise I'm making. Is you're not going to spend that dollar when you could have not spent it and got it later anyway, right? That's kind of my philosophy. But because if I can't raise the money for the 3 extra terabytes, I'm going to have to start deleting shit. Probably Samurai Champloo will be the first one I do. Something like that. We'll see how it goes. I'm hoping I don't have to do that, but I'm running out of time. I see a lot of channels posting everything in their catalog to YouTube to see which shows get traction, and worst case scenario, they stop posting the less popular ones on YouTube due to it not being worth the editing time, and posting the rest on Patreon. At the end, they end up putting more reach and attracting more people to Patreon just for this said show. it's popular though. If it's popular though, it's a win-win. More YouTube subscribers and fans that want to check out your giant backlog of content for the show to get ahead on other stuff. Yeah, I mean it makes sense. What I've noticed here, early numbers are not really indicative of what you're actually going to end up with. Usually, your highest numbers are going to be your first post. Your pilot episode reaction is going to be the highest numbers, and it dwindles from there. That's why if the pilot reaction gets like 20 views, stop immediately. Because inevitably, it's like ratings on anything. Regular networks do this. Their ratings for their pilot episode is going to be the highest because people want to check it out. But people check it out, don't like it, and don't come back. So typically, networks notice this, and I've noticed this for myself. Your second episode will get only 60% of what your first episode got. The third episode will get only 80% of what your second episode got. Then the numbers kind of stabilize from there. So, if your first episode gets 10 views, you got to subtract 40% from that. That's what your second one's going to get, which will be 6 views. Then you got to subtract 1 or 2 from that. And then what that means is your stabilizing number is probably going to be about half of what your first one was. The first episode was 10. You're probably going to get 5 views an episode. So I'm looking to average. I would really like to get like 50 views. I know that's such a small amount, but that's what I'm kind of looking for. Per episode, that's a really good number. So my first episode has to hit 150, maybe 100. And so it can be misleading. People can see that number and be like, why didn't you keep going? Well, because there's going to be the inevitable drop off. But I kind of do that every now and then, and I've seen other channels do it, and they tend to be successful. But they'll react to the first episode of like 5 different shows, whichever one gets the most views and interaction, they continue with that show. The problem with that is, I don't like to start like it happened with From. I keep telling myself not to do this, and I keep doing it. I want to be completely done with the season before I start putting the show out there. I thought I could keep up with the editing, and I ran into some problems, and now it's been a month or 2 since I've done From. I'm going to continue From. But I have to do Welcome to Derry first, because that's actually sponsored. And I haven't had time to do Welcome to Derry, which means I haven't had time to do From. So it can be a chain reaction. But the point is, if you do the first episode of something, and it does well, that means you need to immediately jump into doing a shit ton more of it so you don't start missing that. The missing deadlines is a death of anything in this kind of, content creation. Missing deadlines really hurt you bad. I hate doing it. It probably hurt JoJo more than once that I just am not consistent with those uploads. I understand that. I hate it. I don't like it. It is what it is. So I kind of want to be finished with something. So I would want to do the first season of something before I start the first episode on YouTube. The problem with that is, what if it sucks? Then I wasted the first season. So I don't know. I think Black Clover's doing pretty good. Gintama's doing pretty good. I would love to have a third series that was doing pretty good. Haven't been able to find that, but I'm going to keep looking. What was your list down here, by the way? I think I'm doing most of them. Jujutsu Kaisen, My Hero Academia, Demon Slayer, Frieren, and Apothecary Diaries. I've done them all, right? So I guess I'm looking for things that I haven't done yet that have a fairly decent catalog. Because I don't want to do just 12. Like even that Mushu Tensei, which I really like, I think only has 12 episodes. Seasons are so short these days. It's happening to everything. It's really happening in live action. Now it's happening in anime. I want longer ass seasons. I want longer runs, man. So that's why I like Black Clover so much. I like seeing that I have 130 episodes left to go. That's cool. There's a certain amount of security in that. At least we got One Piece coming back. All right, last 2 comments are from Madakoye. For me, Attack on Titan ended after season 3. Everything else after that is fan fiction by the author. That is not a completely invalid statement. In fact, I think it's fairly valid. And finally, Madakoye. I've been going through JoJo Part 2, and it's not as good as Part 1 so far. But it's just as weird, if not weirder. Well, maybe it's bizarre. No, I think season 2 is better than season 1. It just takes some getting used to. It's really one of the problems with JoJo is they have what I call fringe disease. The series Fringe reinvented itself every 12 goddamn episodes. First, it's the pattern. Then, it's whatever the hell it was. I guess it was that bad guy, right? Then, it was other worlds. Then I don't want to get too far into this in case you haven't seen it yet. Then it's time travel. Then it's this. Then it's that. They reinvent the concept of what the hell the show's about every 12 episodes. And we kind of get into that with JoJo. The first 7 or 9 episodes, whatever it was one thing. Then they skip a generation. Then it's something else. The powers are one thing in the first one. The powers are something else in the second one. Then the third one, they really do some power changes. After that, they start getting more. I think the beginning of season 3, well, part 3, season 2. The beginning of part 3 is another culture class compared to part 1 and 2. But once you get past that, things get a hell of a lot more consistent from there on out. The author finally decided what the hell he wanted to do with these powers. Until then, he didn't know was he doing a vampire show? Was he doing a magic mask show? What the hell was he doing? So he didn't really know, right? It's really hard to get halfway into part 3 because part 1's one thing, part 2 something else, part 3 something else. What the hell? We're going to get another change up pitch switch. Change up switch pitch. Are we going? What the hell are we going to get here? What is happening? Why do you keep changing shit every different 12 episodes, right? That's what it felt like. The first 30 episodes are rough, man, because he keeps changing his mind what the hell he wants to do. I would tell people, honestly, I would tell people to start with part 3. If you want to later, go back and watch parts 1 and 2. It's a hard sell. Getting into JoJo is hard. I wouldn't have done it if people weren't so excited for me to do it. Like, I had really good numbers back then, and there was a lot of encouragement, there was a lot of interaction. It's hard, man. It's hard to get into it. Then it settles down. So you're only, you're going through part 2. Get to episode 30. Get 6 to 8 episodes into part 3 and see what you think then. You're in the hardest part of the series, man. It's rough. It's really rough. I think it's a shitty way to roll out a story. It obviously happened because in the manga he just didn't know what the hell he was doing and he kept changing his mind. I would tell people to start with part 3. So if you're halfway through part 2, get to the end of part 2, get to part 3. Part 2 is already, episode whatever. I mean, you're probably around 18 or 19 or something like that. We're only talking about another 10 episodes. Get 10 or 12 episodes further down the road, see what you think then. That'll tell the story. Because if you don't like JoJo, it's hard to get into by episode 32, you're never going to like it. Because by episode 32, this is what it is. This is what they're doing, and they're doing that for the rest of the series. So they changed up the powers again at the beginning of part 3. I'll warn you about that, and then just from there, see whether you like it. So that's what I would suggest. Alrighty, well, that's it for the Q&A. Like I said, I'm going to do one of these a month. Probably drop around the first of every month. In the meantime, we have mini pods coming out every week. There's 2 weeks of early access at least, and you will get about 10 days of early access on the big podcast. So be sure to check out my Patreon, and other than that, leave a bunch of comments. I want to have more comments next time. I don't remember how many I had for this one, but I don't think I even recorded for a little bit. I only recorded for about an hour. I want at least 90 minutes worth of comments, so drop them comments up in there. All right, until next time.